March 8th Board of Education meeting is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone present and everyone viewing on television. We welcome you and appreciate your interest in our meetings. The Wichita Public Schools will be the district of choice in our regions where all students and staff are empowered to dream, believe, and achieve. If we take a moment for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. If you'd rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're off and rolling. We do have a pretty heavy agenda tonight, so we will be conscious of the pacing and the timing of this. We have a lot of parents out there that want to know what we're going to do in the fourth quarter, so we will do that. And also we want to hopefully select a person to join us on the April 19th meeting. So with that being said, Dr. Mike?
Statement about the COVID-19 BOE meeting format. My name is Mike Willamy, Clerk of the Board. This regular public meeting of the Wichita Public Schools is taking place at the North High Lecture Hall, 1437 Rochester in Wichita. Due to Governor Laura Kelly's state of disaster emergency declarations concerning the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to authority granted under Kansas Administrative Regulation 16-20-01, as well as the Board of Education's concern for the health and safety of the public, except as described in the BOE agenda under the Public Communications section, the public will not attend this BOE meeting. This meeting is available to be viewed live by the public in the following ways: WPS TV on Cox Cable Channel 20, the district's website at www.usd259.org/WPS TV online, and live stream apps for phone, Roku, and Apple TV by searching WPS-TV. After today's meeting, a recording of the meeting will be available on Cox Cable Channel 20 and the WPS YouTube channel. The BOE agenda for this meeting was published on March 4th, 2021 at www.usd259.org/BOE under the BOE Meetings Agendas and Minutes tab. The news media also received the main agenda and a portfolio containing the appendices. Revisions showing speakers for public communications were updated on March 8th. This version is being displayed at the meeting. At this meeting, all board members, district staff, and presenters will identify themselves by name and position before they speak to assist the public in following the meeting. At regular BOE meetings, public comment shall be allowed only during public communications on items on the BOE agenda or items within the jurisdiction of the board. Speakers will be called into the lecture hall to address the board at the podium. After addressing the board, speakers will be required to leave the North High Lecture Hall and the school. There will be an executive session at the end of tonight's meeting. The following procedure will be used concerning the executive session. A motion will be presented by a board member that states the subject matter and the justification under the Kansas Open Meetings Act for going into executive session. The motion will state the time the board will return from executive session. The live broadcast of the meeting will not end until the board returns from executive session and adjourns the meeting. Thank you.
Next item, Dr. Mike.
Under reports, good news. Facilitated by Wendy Johnson from Strategic Communications.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say, President Reeser, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson. It is a pleasure to be here tonight to celebrate 4 good news items. I will tell you that 3 of them are part of the video that you'll see in just a moment, but I'm going to take the liberty of pulling the 4th item up to the beginning so we can celebrate that item, and then I will take my seat as you have the chance to see our remaining 3 good news items. It's fitting today on International Women's Day that we have a chance to honor the remarkable woman that leads our school district as our superintendent. Recently, Dr. Thompson was selected as the Improving Race Relations in Kansas Government Award winner for 2021. The letter that was sent to Dr. Thompson by Mr. Curtis Pitts, who is the leader of the organization that awarded this honor, said that this is based off of the organizational support of racial diversity and Dr. Thompson's ability to work across all racial lines to make our state a better place for all of our citizens. And certainly we've seen time and time again that she has led us all to prioritize all of our students, that we focus on what's best for each and every student, and do, I think, yeoman's work in this community to bridge racial, ethnic, and other types of divides that so many seem to allow to tear us apart. We do our best to bring students and adults together to support the dreams and the achievements of our kids. So we wanted to take the opportunity to represent Dr. Thompson with this award that she received recently from the Faith and Hard Works Ministry Incorporated 2021 Improving Race Relations in Kansas Government Award winner. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Thompson. We have 3 additional good news items that we would like to celebrate with you this evening. The first will give you a chance to hear from Mr. Kelly Bielefeld about the 2021 Career and Technical Education Pathway Award winners. Our second item will allow you to celebrate the Education Edge 150 in 150 awards for teacher mini grants, as well as the classroom grants. And then finally, the Wichita Public Schools AllState musicians. And I think the cool thing about all 3 of these, but as a former instrumental music student, knowing what our musicians have done to adapt and respond to playing their instruments during these crazy times, specialized masks and the like, I think it's noteworthy that our kids and our teachers have continued to achieve noteworthy recognition despite the challenges that we face. And I think that's something that we can all be proud of. So I hope you will join me in directing your attention to the video monitors to celebrate these 3 wonderful good news items this evening.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Bielefeld. I'm the Executive Director of College and Career Readiness at Wichita Public Schools, and tonight I'm excited to announce our CTE Pathway Award winners for 2021. As you know, normally we would have our students and families here on site, but in order to still recognize our students, we're going to do this virtually. And so I'm going to explain a little bit about the award and then announce each of our winners this year. So the CTE Pathway Awards go to seniors that have completed at least 2 credits in any of the pathways throughout the district. So they are nominated by any teacher. Any CTE teacher can nominate a student for a CTE Pathway Award. We look for students that have demonstrated outstanding skills in their area, leadership, and performance, along with being an active member of their CTSO. So without further ado, I'm going to announce the winners for each of our pathways. To start off with the Animal Science Pathway, our winner is Skylar Seifert from Southeast High School. Skylar's nominating teacher, Ms. Farmer, said that Skylar wanted to work with animals, and through a special transfer, she spent the first couple of years commuting across town in order to participate with the FFA chapter. She knew she wanted to work with animals and was dedicated to achieving her goal. Skylar plans to be a vet tech and to attend WSU Tech. Our next pathway winner is Yasmin Perez Hernandez. She is our winner for the biomedical pathway, and she's a senior at Northeast Magnet. Yasmin's nominating teacher, Ms. Yoder Graber, said that Yasmin has pushed her classmates to think more deeply about issues of equality and social justice within our discussions about public health and bioethics. She does this assertively and respectively. She is self-motivated, organized, and detail-oriented. Yasmin plans to be a surgeon and attend the University of Kansas. For our next pathway, the construction pathway, our winner is Andrew Irvin from West High School. Andrew's nominating teacher, Mr. Quick, said that Andrew completed all the courses in the carpentry strand. His leadership skills, ability to solve problems, and capability to adapt to any situation is a true pleasure to witness in class. Other students looked up to him, and he led them with success through his role as shop foreman. Mr. Quick also notes that JROTC played a big role in Andrew's attitude, leadership, and his self-control when things didn't always go as planned. Andrew plans to enlist in the armed forces after graduation. For the digital media pathway, our 2021 winner is Anthony Wynn from East High School. Anthony's nominating teacher, Ms. Duncan, said that Anthony has been taking CTE classes at East throughout his entire 4-year career. She's had the privilege of teaching Anthony since he was a freshman and said it's been amazing to watch him grow as a student academically and socially. During his time at East, Anthony has been a wonderful example of what it means to be an ACE and to be a representative in the CTE digital media pathway. Anthony plans to enroll at WSU in the field of graphic design. For our early childhood pathway, our 2021 winner is Taya Williams from Heights High School. Taya's nominating teacher, Ms. McGinley, said, "She is a bundle of energy, creativity, and joy wrapped up in one little petite package." I met Taya at the beginning of her sophomore year when she enrolled in the Parenting, Child Development, and World of Children courses. She has been a fixture of my physical and remote classroom since then and is also an active member of our FCCLA chapter. She plans to be a high school teacher and enroll at either the University of North Texas or Tennessee State University. For the engineering pathway, our winner is Lily Reed from East High School. Lily's nominating teacher, Mr. Collette, said Lily has become an excellent leader. She is a member of the Society of Women Engineers and an active participant. Last year, that group unanimously decided that Lily should step up and take control of the group. She did and has led the club ever since. She makes sure she is always present, helps with all decisions, and aids the other members when they need help. Lily plans to be an architect and enroll at the University of Kansas or at Texas A&M University. For the fashion, apparel, and interior design pathway, our 2021 winner is Josiah Brown from North High School. Nominating teacher, Ms. Delford, said, "Josiah has taken all pathway courses except for one. He enjoys designing and creating new looks and redesigning apparel. He is very talented as a sketch designer, and he entered the Fashion Design FCCLA Star event and qualified all the way to nationals last year. He opened up a whole new world of communicating and competing on a new digital level, all from home. Josiah plans to be a fashion designer and attend Wichita State University." For the finance pathway, our 2021 winner is Elijah Goodwin from West High School. Nominating teacher, Ms. Hartley, said, "Elijah has been a top student at Wichita High School West. He wants to continue to study marketing and accounting. Academically, he takes challenging courses and competes in both BPA and DECA, 2 of our CTSOs. He would be the first college graduate in his family. He works part-time while working on school virtually. Elijah has the respect of his peers, and Ms. Hartley has enjoyed watching him work hard daily. Elijah plans to attend Butler Community College, then Wichita State, and major in accounting." For the emergency fire and science pathway, our 2021 winner is Jacob Morrison from South High School. Nominating teacher, Mr. Dusenberry, said, "Jacob has grown immensely since I met him as a sophomore. His junior year, Jacob demonstrated the willingness to dig into skills and get his hands dirty. In the medical terminology class this year, Jacob's determination to improve his grades was apparent. He is now enrolled in the EMT class and looking forward to joining the LPSS internship class in the 4th quarter. Jacob plans to be a firefighter and attend Hutchinson Community College." For the law and public safety pathway, our 2021 winner is Chloe Kuckelman from from Northeast Magnet High School. Nominating teacher Miss Witt said, "Chloe is an amicable young woman who is well respected by her peers. She possesses strong critical thinking and communication skills. Furthermore, she exudes confidence when presenting to her peers during debates, Socratic seminars, mock trials, or small group discussions about real-life issues, legal concepts, or historical events. Lastly, she completes excellent projects for her Magnet area classes. Her projects are always informative, exhibiting deep reflection and understanding of the topics at hand. Chloe plans to attend the University of Kansas and pursue a law degree." For the marketing pathway, our 2021 winner is Gabby Harper Odell from East High School. Nominating teacher Ms. Zimmerman said, "Gabby is a valuable member of Wichita East DECA. Gabby has earned recognition at many regional, state, and national events and qualified to compete at the International DECA competition and the Marketing Communications event, both her sophomore and junior years. This year, Gabby is the chapter president of DECA and has been responsible for planning and leading meetings, which has been especially difficult considering they have not met in person for over a year. She has given whole group presentations and one-on-one guidance to many of the members of DECA this year. Gabby plans to be a marketing specialist and attend Texas Christian University." For the plant science pathway, our 2021 winner is Carter Krieger from Southeast High School. Nominating teacher Ms. Farmer said, "Carter has been involved in the agriculture program and the FFA chapter for 4 years. He has served as an officer for 2 years, but has been a true leader throughout all of high school. Carter has won numerous state awards and even a national award, but what he will be remembered for most is his work ethic. Carter has volunteered hundreds of hours in our community garden and in the classroom. He is always the first to volunteer for whatever needs done. Wichita Southeast FFA is thriving and growing because of his hard work and dedication. Carter plans to be a forest firefighter and attend Hutchinson Community College." For the teaching and training pathway, our 2021 winner is Kaylee Nelson from Northwest High School. Nominating teacher Mr. Kitchen said, "Kaylee has had many great experiences in teaching internship last year at Hamilton Middle School. She excels in art and loves to connect with her students through her art. Kaylee plans to attend Newman University and major in forensic science." Those were all the CTE Pathway Award winners for this year. We had over 20 nominations throughout all the different schools, and in a challenging year for all things CTE, we are thankful to the teachers for nominating these students and appreciate the parents and student support in recognizing them for their great efforts. Congratulations to all of our CTE Pathway Award winners for 2021.
Good evening, Board President Reeser, Superintendent Thompson, and Board of Education. I'm Holly Wilson, Grants Administrator. This evening, we have some exciting information to share about Education Edge. As you know, the Education Edge is the district's educational foundation, allowing private donors to support 3 key areas: classroom mini-grants, fine arts, and athletics. Since the foundation began in 2005, the district has invested more than $1.2 million in these key areas with the assistance of the Wichita Community Foundation. This year, our fund team is excited to provide each of these fund areas with $150,000 in celebration of 150 years in public education. I'll be back to tell you more about our mini grants, but first, here are Sean Chastain and Jay Means to tell how fine arts and athletics will invest their funds in the district.
Good evening, everyone. The Fine Arts Gift Fund team requested support for the established priorities of beginning band and orchestra instruments, visual arts equipment, and auditorium upgrades, along with some additional prioritized items. The instrumental request includes the purchase of 50 band and orchestra instruments, bringing our total to almost 300 instruments purchased through Education Edge. The visual arts request includes the purchase of 1 printing press, 10 banding wheels, 3 electronic kilns, 2 clay mixers, and 8 paper cutters. These 24 items, combined with previous purchases, have now enhanced our K-12 visual arts rooms with almost 200 visual arts equipment items. The auditorium request included the purchase of 40 lapel microphone units, 5 for each high school auditorium, totaling almost 340 sound and lighting upgrade items for our district through Education Edge. Additional requests this very special year include the purchase of 12 portable sound systems for elementary school performances, 8 customized painted scenery backdrops, and a musical composition written in honor of WPS's 150th year. This piece will be scored for elementary, middle, and high school voices and accompanied by a full high school orchestra. Thank you, Education Edge, for enhancing WPS Fine Arts students and staff and giving us opportunities to dream, believe, and achieve.
With this unprecedented investment from the Athletics Fund, we want to ensure that we are engaging all stakeholders to ensure that these funds are spent in an impactful way. We are looking for a couple different options that will not only add to the athletes and the team's experience, but also engage other students, participants, and spectators in the athletic competitions. Stay tuned to Athletics for announcements on how we plan to use our $150,000 in the most impactful way possible.
A few weeks ago, we were excited to surprise our many grant recipients in the classrooms. These teachers proved how their projects would have classroom impact and support the district's strategic plan. Here are the first round of the recipients of the $150,000 investment in Wichita classrooms. Megan Burnt from Gammon Elementary was awarded $1,500 for an outdoor literacy and emotional regulation environment. Christy Gensel from Meade Middle School, $1,500 for building a current and relevant library collection. Kevin Loss at Dunlap Transition Center at Chisholm, $1,500 for a life skills audio-visual lab. Paula Morawski at Seltzer Elementary was awarded $1,500 for ebooks for our remote students. Nicholas Green at West High School was awarded $1,500 for esports support. Dina Spechtenhauser at Stanley Elementary was awarded $1,500 for her Instruments for All project. Emily Ball at Washington Elementary was awarded $1,500 to increase reading fluency and comprehension through their take-home book bags. Emily Runyon at Louverture Elementary was awarded $1,500 for indoor sensory paths. Christopher Garza at Heights High School was awarded $1,500 for their robotics program competition expansion. And last, Casey Candia Crom at Earhart was awarded $1,500 to expand nature books within their classroom. We are WPS proud of you and the work that you do every day to support each and every one of your students. Many grants aren't the only grants available to our teachers. Coke Classroom grants run in tandem to Education Edge. Coke Classroom grants support STEM principles and entrepreneurship and are fully funded by our partners at Coke Industries. Here is Tammy Hernandez to announce the winners of the Coke Classroom grants.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm Tammy Hernandez from Coke Industries, and thank you, board members, for your support and hard work during this trying time in education. At Coke, we believe education enables students to discover, develop, and apply their unique abilities to find success and fulfillment in their lives. The Coke Classroom Grants is an example of this belief in action. It provides an opportunity for educators to think outside the box on how to deliver education in intriguing ways to better reach and engage students. The following grant recipients receive $3,000 each for STEM-focused projects in their classrooms during this calendar year. Start looking for the results of these exciting projects. Candida Wise, Spate Science and Communications Magnet. Ms. Wise's Drum Circle program is designed to increase the understanding of STEM concepts in elementary students. Jessica Schmidt, Harry Street Elementary. This project will use Ozabots to teach students how to code and a green screen for student presentations. Hannah Kelderman, North High School. Mrs. Kelderman will tackle engineering essentials and help students learn how to solve real-world problems in this Project Lead the Way course. Eric Hansen, Heights High School. An outdoor organic farm and irrigation system is the focus of this project that supports the Falcon Farmers Outdoor STEM Lab. And finally, Martha Gates, Southeast High School. This Sewing in the Theater Classroom project aims to combine craft and science. Congratulations to this year's Koch Classroom Grant recipients. We can't wait to see what all you will accomplish. And thank you, teachers, for all your hard work and dedication.
The Fund team would like to thank the Board of Education for continued support of Education Edge. Please be on the lookout for another round of Edge applications opening later this spring.
Good evening, President Reeser, Superintendent Thompson, and members of the board. One of the highest honors any WPS student musician can achieve is being selected to participate in one of our Kansas Music Educators Association's all-state ensembles. Through this year's competitive virtual audition process at the district and state levels, tonight's all-state honorees' invitation to perform at the 2021 KMEA Virtual In-Service Workshop was met with much excitement and WPS pride. Online rehearsals began in early February, followed by a virtual performance February 27th at the In-Service Workshop. Such achievements can only happen through many hours of musical practice by dedicated students and those who support them. Please join me in thanking the WPS directors of these all-state students who have joined us tonight virtually and also assisted Kim Winger, Fine Arts Administrative Assistant, in submitting tonight's slideshow information and student photos. From East High School, Miranda Wilson, Director of Bands, Jennifer Potoshnik, Director of Choirs, and Eric Crawford, Director of Orchestras. From Heights, Director of Choirs, Mark Walker. From North, Amy Davidson, Director of Choirs, and Jordan Casper, Director of Instrumental Music. From Northeast Magnet, Phil Taylor, Director of Choirs. From Northwest, Gary Leopold, Director of Bands. From Southeast High School, Lisa Cookson, Director of Choirs, and Amanda Jimson, Director of Orchestras. From Mayberry Middle School, Director of Choirs, Panya Ampone. And from Cloud Elementary, music teachers Hannah Gable and Julia Straw. While we want to thank these award-winning students and faculty, I also want to recognize any parents, family members, and administrators of these students that joined us tonight online. Thanks for your continued support of these talented students. So, just as we did last month with Scholastics, how about a virtual round of applause for our all-state students, directors, parents, family members, and administrators. Following tonight's good news item, I will be sending each student a district-level certificate of recognition for this honor. And finally, many thanks to our Board of Education and district leadership for once again supporting our Wichita Public Schools' excellent representation in this year's Kansas All-State Musical Ensembles, as well as their support of Northeast Magnet's virtual choral performance under the direction of Mr. Phil Taylor. The timing of these celebrations is perfect because March is not only Music in Our Schools Month, but also Theater in Our Schools Month and Youth Art Month. We're so grateful for the district's support of WPS Fine Arts. Thanks everyone and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to have the great news, and we appreciate everyone's effort in career and technical education, all the Koch classroom grants and the Education Edge 150, and obviously our public school all-state student musicians. Just wonderful news. Dr. Mike, next item.
Continuing under reports, Service Employees International.
We welcome Esau Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. Esau Freeman, Service Employees International Union Business Representative. I wanted to take some time this evening to thank you for a few different things and report on a few others. First of all, the COVID vaccinations, sorry, that seems to be feeding back. The COVID vaccinations have been going extremely smooth. I had an opportunity myself to see them firsthand earlier this week, and just the process is so quick and it runs through fast, and everybody seems to just fly through there. So thank you so much, everyone that's made those things possible. I think that's the golden key to getting us back into the buildings and getting schools going, which I know that everyone's been working desperately to get taken care of because we need to get kids back in school. So thank you very much for that. I also wanted to tell you guys thank you for signing on so that union members could continue to take their union dues deductions out of their paycheck, just like they do with United Way donations and other things like that. We appreciate you guys standing up for that because we've been attacked a couple different times by the, our generation's greatest storytellers at the Kansas Policy Institute, bringing people in from out of town to try and attack the rights of working people. And to that note, I'd also like to speak briefly that we also reached out to Senator Jerry Moran and Roger Marshall and had our members do so as well to let them know how important these COVID relief packages are. And unfortunately, Roger Marshall decided to write me back a response and say that it wasn't necessarily the right package or the right time to do it, and Jerry Moran didn't even bother to write back. So I hope that everyone will take an opportunity to reach out to their senators and talk about supporting things. I know we've passed this, but you know, just in the future, for all the working people who get up every day and put their boots on and go out and do the work that needs to be done to make our community great, they need to be taken care of, and I appreciate the way you guys have stepped up and done that for those working people. So thank you very much. Any questions? Or all right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Esau. Next item.
Report United Teachers of Wichita.
Welcome, Kim.
Hello, Kimberly Howard, President of UTW. Good evening, President Reeser, Vice President Blankley, Dr. Thompson, and BOE members. First off, I have to thank our community members because the spread of COVID in our community has drastically decreased over the past 2 months. And that is thanks to our community members wearing their mask and following CDC guidelines. I've done a lot of interviews concerning COVID and schools over the past year, which I'm way more comfortable in classroom with my kindergartners, but anyway, we've done it. And at the end, they always ask, is there anything you want the community to know? And I always reply with, teachers want to be back with their students at our schools, but it has to be done safely. The power to bring back our students to our buildings lies with the community. If the community takes the CDC guidelines seriously and vigorously follows them, we'll get our kids back to schools. So our community has done that, and we have already been bringing more students back to our buildings. As of last Friday, USD 259 had 307 staff on active quarantines. That is considerably lower than when we had to switch to full remote for our district at the end of November. Those numbers have consistently remained low, and we have moved through February and are now in March. So our staff should really be commended for their diligence in making that happen. While we know that some of our students are thriving in a remote setting, we also know some of our students are really struggling. I think one thing that the pandemic has shown the entire world is how important education is for our kids, not just academically, but also socially and mentally for our students. Our schools and staff are needed now more than ever to support our students. Kansas Senate Bill 235 will require school districts to provide for full-time in-person attendance options on or after March 26th, and we need to be ready if it becomes law. So as you discuss plans for the fourth quarter, one thing we want to emphasize is that face mask must remain mandatory for staff and students. If students are refusing to wear them in the classroom, then they need to be removed from the classroom for the safety of others. We do not want to get lax with wearing our face mask and then end up having to go full remote during the last quarter of the year. I don't think anybody wants that to happen. For our students and families that have underlying health conditions or don't want to risk contracting COVID, we believe we must continue to offer the My School Remote as a learning option through the end of the school year. And finally, I want to address some concerns that I've seen when talking with staff. While we talk about the mental health of our students in a lot of our conversations, we don't talk as much about the mental health of our staff. We have staff that have lost family and friends to COVID. We have staff that have had COVID themselves and suffered some pretty serious and horrible symptoms. And at work, our staff have had things thrown at them on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. Some things that have even been decided at BOE meetings have went into effect the next day. That's really, that's really stressful for our staff. So we consistently hear the message from admin to give them flexibility and grace, but sometimes we don't necessarily see that reciprocated enough or often enough. So our teachers' workloads keep increasing, and I've seen the toll that this stress is having on our teachers. One would think the upcoming spring break will be a time of rest, but now it's probably going to be spent getting ready for the fourth quarter changes that you guys will decide tonight. So I just ask you to please, please give staff some flexibility and grace as they deal with yet another change. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next item.
Under public communications, we have 3 people registered to speak tonight.
Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Thompson, and USD 259 staff. My name is Mandy Anderson. I'm a work-at-home mother of 3 children who are in the MSR program. 2 of my children attend middle school, and 1 is in kindergarten this year. It's my concern that although there's no intention of restructuring the MSR program, that children may lose their MSR classroom teachers due to more in-person students coming into the buildings. When we signed our children up for MSR, tears were shed and the decision was not easy. I knew my children wouldn't enter a school building this year, that they wouldn't have lunch with friends, and that they wouldn't receive pats on the back from their teachers this year. My kindergartner wouldn't have first day butterflies of missing mom and dad, and he also wouldn't receive the highs or understand how amazing recess on a playground would be. But my kids acted with grace. They knew this was a part of their civil duty of keeping themselves, their family, and the staff inside our schools safe. They gave up their world with a smile and understanding that it was for something bigger than them. It was for safety, it was for consistency, and it was for community. Days have passed and my family has watched the district move in and out of schools. No kids in, some kids in, 2 days in, 3 days in, 4 days in, now 5 days in. Through all of this, my kids have been comforted by the consistency of the MSR schedules and teachers. We know our login times. I know at 9:40 my 7th grader is going to need a math tutor, and I know at 10:45 my 8th grader is going to need a math tutor. I know their lunch times and their recess times, their Dreambox times and their Avid times, and at the end of each day, we all breathe, we high five because we did it once again. But there's things I didn't expect. I didn't expect to make friends. I didn't expect my kids to make friends. We've excitedly counted down until friend B had a new baby sister. I know that friend E can belt out the most beautiful tune with made-up kindergarten words. Mrs. T is one of the most interesting substitutes I've ever come across, and I'd love to lunch with her one day just to hear her wisdom. Mrs. M's kids color on furniture just like mine, and our beloved Mrs. R has the patience of a saint who never stops smiling at those kindergartners from behind a screen when they ask for the 15th time, each one of them once, what the next assignment is. They adore her, and I adore each of my children's teachers for making such sweet lemonade out of these lemons. My kids have had great successes in MSR. Both middle schoolers have finished first semester with honor roll. Our kindergartner has been student of the month. My kids have a full-time tutor at their fingertips. That's me. I know the picture isn't that bright for each child, and this time has not been without family sacrifice, but we've also learned to pull together and persevere, and we've learned that the 6 of us can do anything we want, anything we have to in order to protect each other. It's been an unfair perspective to teachers and to families to dismiss my remote as a failure. This mentality is misaligned and sabotages our successes. So today, as you're faced with how to vote to implement the plans for fourth quarter, I ask that you ponder, which means that you might have to stop for a second and think differently than when you came in. What is the necessity for all of these changes tonight? For MSR, it is not a legislation issue. Please don't use that as an excuse. Will these kids have the same teachers when they return after spring break? Although it's been mentioned that the structure of MSR will not change, I'm not convinced that students won't be moved from their year-long teachers and displaced if they choose not to return to school on March 26th. Is this really a fair thing to do to children in their final 40 days? To take away their friends and their teachers? I believe you're going to ask me to either stay MSR and my kids will be moved, or to forgo my family's safety plan and send them to school.
Mrs.
Is my
Anderson?
yes.
I'm sorry, we've given you an extra minute and a half.
Okay.
Do you have a conclusion?
I have about 3 sentences left.
Thank you.
Okay. Is my kindergartner going to get a new teacher 3/4 of the way through the school year because you don't deem that there's enough reason to justify their stability? The decision you make for the remainder of my children's school year will make or break my bond with USD 259. My children deserve to finish the year with teachers they began with. When we signed up for MSR, we were told that it would be a year-long program and were asked to make that commitment. 259 should be accountable to the same commitment. In closing, 1 year ago, at the start of spring break, my kids went home and left behind the life and school they knew. No one in the world had much of a choice. Don't do the same thing to them this year. Although, allow them to finish the year with the friends and teachers they love, because this time you do have the choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. We appreciate your passion, and that's exactly why we wanted to bring public speaking back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Kincaid. I'm a teacher. I'm here to represent my colleagues who have already tirelessly worked to take care of our students during this unique time. Nothing angers us more than hearing people say that our students haven't been learning this year. Yes, they have. We have made sure that they did. They have learned new skills: patience, flexibility, self-reliance, self-advocacy. We are teaching, and they are learning. We teachers have done everything you have asked of us this year. Last March, we left our classrooms empty and cried as we left. We cried for the lost goodbyes to our students that we would never see again, and we cried for the uncertainty of what was to come. Then we got to work. We learned how to navigate a brand new computer system, Microsoft Teams, that none of us had ever used before. We worked through the bugs and kinks and taught our students how to use it too. We smiled through dropped meeting calls, the students who couldn't log on, the system updates, and the dreaded blue screens of death. We have extended our flexibility skills beyond what we thought possible. Through all these changes, we have continued to do our jobs. We didn't quit. We kept at it every day, and we brought the students with us. They are still with us every day. We know we have lost many to this online school transition. We know how hard it is for them, and we miss them. But if you decide tonight to bring back all of the students before we are ready, I am telling you tonight that we cannot do that safely. We cannot space out the students. We cannot guarantee they will all wear their masks. We don't have enough PPE supplies to clean all of the desks and table surfaces we will need to use. We cannot ventilate our classrooms to overcome the circulation of air with 30 kids in the classroom. You promised us that remote students could stay remote for the rest of the year. You promised parents, you promised the students. Remember, they chose this option. They want to be remote. I'm also here to make a personal plea for myself, my colleagues, and my students. Please consider keeping the Wellness Wednesdays until the end of the school year. We have received very few benefits from this transition to online, but this by far is the best thing that you have done for our schools in a long time. You say that you want to promote mental health for the district. This is the way to do that. As we slowly add our students back, we want to keep their safety and our safety in mind. If you bring them all back at once, we cannot keep the safety protocols that we have worked so hard to put in place. Our superintendent, Alicia Thompson, said in her email to the district, "I look forward to the day I can safely visit classrooms and see all of our students present and engaged." If it is not safe for her to visit the classrooms yet as we are now, how can we put all of our students safely into them? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
Hello, President Reeser, Vice President Blankley, members of the BOE, and Dr. Thompson. My name is Trish Heilman, and I wanted to first of all thank you for opening the public communications portions of the BOE meetings. They're really important, and I look forward to when we get to attend meetings again in person too. I would like to speak to you about our public schools pandemic response. This has been an extremely challenging year, and I thank each of you for your service, as there were no 100% right answers. And nevertheless, you had to make very difficult decisions. Thank you for serving Wichita with many hours and without pay. I'm here to advocate for students for whom the remote model of learning has been harmful to their education or mental health. I'm here to advocate for the engagement of parents and facilitating parents having a controlling say in their children's education. In your decision-making tonight, I would ask that you not remove parental choice for those who have made that fully remote choice. I understand and agonize with you for the students who are not being best served, but I think taking parental choice away breaks faith with the community when it is unnecessary. If the students need remediation, that can be accomplished in other ways. As a district, because of your ability to get computers into classrooms and into every student's home remotely, you're able to see from the analytics which students have not been able to, or willing, or successful in engaging with their public education. There's also metrics of grades and testing, and many schools have engaged these to figure out where kids are. I have experienced and realized that holding students back in 259 is not something that is allowed in the past, and I ask you to reconsider this approach for this year, specifically to reach out to the students who have had less success this year and work with them on those individual education plans that can include repeating the year if the academic status warrants, and if the parents support or ask for that. I also ask that for some students where the parental support may be lacking, but the metrics on learning are clear, that you work for our community's good and insist that an academic remediation plan be put into place that helps the students get to grade level within a year or hold that student back the next year. So this last year has been unprecedented, and you, our administration, most of all our classroom and building staff have pivoted, worked overtime, and reimagined your hearts out. I personally saw this amazing effort with my own children. Some students have thrived, and that's due to the amazing classroom employees to connect with students, even over glitchy technology. Well done, Wichita teachers, paras, and building staff. However, there are a larger number of students than normal who have fallen behind, are depressed, have become disengaged or disenfranchised. And I ask you to continue to innovate and think out of the box in the next year as you work to ensure that remote schooling doesn't change the trajectory of these students' lives for the worse. I ask that you move boldly to remedy the harm that was done to students in the past by offering options to parents that they have not had before. Offer any parent who would like to hold back their student. May I continue for about 20 more seconds?
Sure.
Thanks. Offer any parent who would like to hold back their student this year that option. Work with students who did not show academic success to ensure they are ready to move on with testing or summer school. Offer students, especially in high school, the ability to retake a class for replacement of a poor grade, and hold back students who will truly benefit from that relational in-person learning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Heilman. Next item, Dr. Mike.
Under education, continuing discussion, pandemic response, and fourth quarter learning model. The purpose of tonight's agenda item is to review current COVID data indicators and discuss the plan that Superintendent Alicia Thompson will recommend to return pre-K through 12 students to WPS classrooms at the beginning of the fourth quarter on Monday, March 29th. Tonight's agenda item provides an opportunity for the board's discussion and/or appropriate action.
Good evening to President Mr. Stan Reeser and Vice President Mr. Ben Blankley and all of the other board members. I'm glad to be here this evening to be able to have the opportunity to talk about our final quarter of the learning model decision point. We've had a long year, as all of the speakers have indicated, but we are still engaged and fully ready to continue to serve students for the fourth quarter. And so I would like to, at this time, begin our presentation. As we begin tonight, I think it's important to set the stage as we head into the fourth quarter of the year. As you can see on this list, there are many who have been advocates for the safe return of students to school since the beginning of the calendar year. I'll just list them. President Biden, Governor Kelly, and local officials have worked to assure teachers and other K-12 staff receive vaccines this fall. And there is a clear recognition of the importance of public education to both the economic engine and the well-being of our communities. The next slides will allow me to paint the picture that influences the recommendation that I'm going to make to you this evening. This is the graphic you all know very well, and this is your gating criteria that was adopted last August. And since the school year began, we haven't seen a picture quite like this in the terms of the alignment of the data. The attendance indicator continues to fall within that green range for the district overall. And the second row, which represents the 2-week percentage positive figure, is lower than it has been the entire school year. Currently, our community is at 3.5%. The third row is also one that we haven't seen in any range other than orange for many months. And currently, the 2-week incident rate is at 146.6 per 100,000 people, putting this indicator in the orange range. And the fourth row, the trends in our community, is in green. These slides represent the data behind the first green indicator, and that's the variance of attendance between last year and this year. You will see that as a district, we continue to fall within that green range as we have throughout the year. Data represented here speaks to both our current number of staff COVID positive cases as well as the current number of staff quarantines. This is a data that was, this was very severe in November, if you guys remember that. When it was really poor, you elected for us to go fully remote. And it is the data that hasn't been this favorable in terms of the health and well-being of our staff since we started tracking these indicators. We've said all along that our greatest challenge was when we have to have issues as it relates to staffing. And we believe that the positive picture represented here supports the recommendation that you will soon hear and discuss. One of the most significant actions that has occurred during the third quarter of the year has been the vaccination of WPS staff. I can't tell you how significant this work has been to alleviate the stress and create a sense of hope amongst the district community. As of last Saturday evening, we have vaccinated 4,590 employees and close partners such as the first student drivers. This figure represents the first dose of the Moderna vaccine only, but we are prepared to begin administering the second round of vaccines starting March the 13th. I will point out that in addition to our WPS vaccine clinic, we know that other employees have received vaccinations through Sedgwick County's clinics, as well as vaccination opportunities in their home counties. Both vaccines and testing will continue by appointment through the spring. And I can't say enough about the importance of this action to our district community. I want to acknowledge Kansas Governor Kelly for expressing urgency for these vaccinations to be prioritized, and to Sedgwick County's Health Department for assuring we would have the quantities that is needed in order to quickly vaccinate our staff. I also want to express my deepest appreciation to Kimber Cassett and all of the nurses and health room assistants who are powering the WPS vaccination clinic. Everywhere I go, I see people that have received their vaccine from us, and they have nothing but great news for the process that we've established. So please be sure, if you see any of those folks out, to thank them for providing us this great opportunity. Moving forward, now that I have painted a picture for you of the increasingly safe and healthy community, it's time to consider the reason why this is all so important: the ability of our district to return as many students as possible to our classroom for in-person learning. As we continue to monitor our data and approach the end of the third quarter, we have gradually tested the system by expanding the number of students who are on our secondary campuses every day. The early success of this gradual initiative has heavily influenced the recommendation for the fourth quarter that I will share with you in just a moment. Today, we welcomed 7th and 9th grade on-site learners back to our campuses 4 days a week. This would be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Through the end of the third quarter, we have retained that remote Wednesday schedule, but you will hear in a few minutes that we are recommending that this remote learning day be eliminated for our on-site learners in order to get our secondary students back to school 5 days a week. Last week, we brought back 6th graders and our high school seniors. Marshall Middle School went one step further with the pilot to bring back all grades on-site learners 4 days a week. Principal Bustos has indicated that this pilot project has gone very well so far, and his experience certainly gave us the confidence to present our fourth quarter recommendation tonight. Finally, I would note that we also plan to bring our 8th, 10th, and 11th grade on-site learners back to campus 4 days a week next Monday. You have made it clear through the course of the school year that you want as many students back in school as we can possibly bring back safely. With the health of our Wichita community and with WPS community improving so significantly over the course of the year since we returned from the holiday break, I will present the following recommendation to you for the fourth quarter of the school year. Students who have chosen on-site learning will return 5 days a week beginning Monday, March the 29th. That's the Monday we return from spring break. My School Remote will continue for families who chose that learning model for the year. It is important to make all of our families aware that next year, not this year, next year, the 21-22 academic school year, our district will not be allowed to offer the My School Remote options to families. We will definitely continue to offer Education Imagine Academy, but the Kansas Department of Education has already indicated that remote learning will not be allowed. This is not the choice of the district. We would love to have that option, but that is the choice that has been made for us. This recommendation will have no impact on students enrolled in elementary on-site learning, as they have always been in school 5 days a week. Nor will this recommendation have impact on students enrolled in Education Imagine Academy or those who are being served through the Temporary Services Plan. We may have some limited adjustments to class size based on student enrollment data and an effort to provide social distancing to the greatest extent possible. I do want to add that in addition to being good for kids, this recommendation puts our district in alignment with the measure being discussed in Topeka that will require all the state's public schools districts to offer in-person classes to students who want to be back on site. And I will be clear, as others have stated, right now that bill has passed the Senate and it has gone on to the House. So it is not passed, but this, if passed, what we are recommending will keep you in alignment with that bill if it passes. The last thing I wanted to add regarding this recommendation is that it has been significantly influenced by my Community Advisory Committee, groups of teachers who have emailed or called me, as well as building administrating teams who have worked with folks and listened to folks in their buildings. So, these committees and the feedback that we have received, one of the scenarios that was considered was bringing all students back, both on-site and remote, back to campus for the first quarter. We had a robust discussion about the pros and cons of these scenarios, and the committee, along with others, spoke very clearly that this kind of dramatic change was too much for the final quarter of the school year. They agreed that we should assure that 5 days a week learning occurs for those who would want to be back in school for 5 days a week, but they also said we should allow students who desire to conclude the year with remote learning to do so. To all those who said yes to the opportunity to serve on that COVID team, thank you. All of the teachers who email me on a regular basis, I appreciate those comments too, because these all led to the final recommendation that we are ready to explore this evening. So I thank you for your service, not only to the kids, but also to giving input and feedback for the decision. Additionally, as we move forward into the fourth quarter, I will note that we intend to follow Cedric County's Health Department's modified close contact quarantine for students. This recommendation is based on the analysis of very low transmission amongst students and will minimize the impact of potential quarantine situations this spring, as long as students and staff, as the young lady said before, are properly masked at all times. We will continue to require that masks are worn and that frequent hand washing and sanitizing continues. And I will take a note right here that if anyone needs any cleaning solutions, we have plenty, and all they have to do is ask. If you don't have masks, all you have to do is ask. We have plenty, and we are ready to serve. We will also continue the ventilation and faculty cleaning enhancements that our custodial crews have done across the district, that they've done all year. We will continue those. Additionally, we will continue to provide remote food distribution for families who qualify based on the participation in remote learning. Once we assess demand for food following spring break, we may adjust the distribution locations. Should we modify our remote distribution locations, we will let everyone know. Finally, we will continue with COVID testing through the end of the school year, and we will continue with vaccinations as long as we have supply, and we will continue to limit access to our buildings by visitors. There are 3 additional items I want to connect to this discussion prior to standing for any questions that you might have. As some of the speakers said before, lots of the things that they talked about we will be doing. Summer school is an important element to this equation just for tonight to support learning loss for many of our students who have suffered this year. Dr. Geeson will share a full presentation with you as soon as this conversation has concluded. And the final 2 items on this slide affirm something I have already touched upon. We will continue to offer virtual learning through Education Imagine Academy next year, but we will not be allowed to offer My School Remote at this time based on the language, and if anybody wants to go find it, it's based on the language in the State Education Department's Navigating Next plan. With that, I will be glad to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We do have some questions. Julie?
Dr. Thompson, I wrote down exactly how you presented and had the slide that my question is based on. You said that remote learning continues for families who chose that. Okay. It continues for families who chose that. What if families who chose that would now would like to choose to pivot and send their kids back? Is that a possibility, or are we just sticking with what we chose?
We will open that up for opportunities for families to pivot. I don't like the word pivot, as you know, but pivot.
Sorry about that.
Make an adjustment. So what they would need to do is they need to contact their school, and the schools will work with them to make the adjustment.
Okay, but we didn't have a lot of folks that wanted to change their learning plan at semester. So without polling folks and stuff, I'm thinking maybe most of the folks that originally chose My School Remote might want to stay in that venue. Do you have any sense do you folks have any predictions relative to how many that chose My School Remote might want to come back? And the reason I'm asking that question is because I think that is going to probably be the primary influencer for Ms. Anderson's concern relative to the teachers, and you had a slide about there might possibly need to be some shifting of staff.
Yeah. The last time we did this, we were anticipating a massive shift, and it did not happen.
Right.
So this is all, I'm not going to make any promises. As I have learned, you do not make any promises that you cannot keep. And so I cannot guarantee that there will be no movement, but as we have found over the last couple times that we've had adjustments being made, very little adjustments were really made. There were few, but not very many.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl?
Thank you, and thank you very much for an excellent presentation. We've all been anxious to get our kids back, and you have done that. Would you mind putting up the recommendation slide, your recommendations? Yeah, thank you. Because I'd like to put a motion on the floor, and then we can have discussion about this, but I'd like to move that the Wichita Board of Education adopt the superintendent's recommendations. And additionally, I would move that we allow the Superintendent Thompson to continue monitoring health and wellness data carefully and make key decisions that may be warranted to balance learning and safety as we conclude the 2020-21 school year. And the reason for adding that onto the motion is that we are now moving into our last 9 weeks, and we have board meetings, but we don't have a lot of board meetings. So if something changes dramatically, I don't want us to not adjust to those changes. Hopefully we won't have to. Hopefully nothing will change, but that at least gives us some flexibility. So that's my motion on the floor. My question with that is a little bit tied onto what Julie just talked about, and that's the remote kids. Because we know some of our remote children are doing great, absolutely flying with remote. But we also know some others aren't doing quite so well. They have D's and F's, or they're falling behind in their classrooms. That's a reason we're putting together a substantial summer school program. What are we going to do to try to get or encourage parents to bring their kids back if they're not being as successful as they need to be in remote?
That's a great question, and we are all over that because we are concerned as well. In high school, we have a group of employees that are going to be designated specifically just to support those students. We're going to go find those seniors who are not engaging and are not doing what we need them to do academically. So we're going to go find them. And we're going to bring them back to school and have meetings with their parents. And we have a team that's going to be exclusively just working on that. We also know that we had a lot of our students, we don't know where, just like any other school district, we're not sure where those students are located at this point. So we're going to have a group and team of people going to find kids. We've been looking for them all year. We haven't found them, but we're going to keep looking for our kids. And we're going to bring in tutoring for those, which is already available, but we're going to really hone in on those kids. We're going to have opportunities this summer for kids, as they ladies have talked before. Ms. Hellman said, you know, summer program to help kids that have a deficit in maybe a credit that they didn't pass a class, having an opportunity to redo those classes. So we have an extensive team that is rearing up right now, even retired administrators coming back to support us in trying to really hone in on those children that are not engaging, have D's or F's that are didn't do well this year, and then looking for those students who we could not find at the beginning of the school year that may have enrolled in, I don't know, or we just don't know where they went, you know, and this has happened all over the country and all in our state. We have missing children. I mean, so we're looking for those kids.
You're referring to the 2,600 kids that
That
are
is
enrollment
correct.
dropped.
That is
Gotcha.
correct. So we are looking for those students. And and let me make it clear, it's not that those kids are, I mean, nobody has gone to find them or look for them, but we just don't, we have no location for those kids. They may have moved. I mean, we don't know, but we're going to go out. We've done it once, but we found a few, but we're going to go out and spend some quality time out there really looking for children.
Yeah.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I just, as the year progresses and that team works with that, you know, the more kids we can get back in that are missing, the better off we are, even if we don't get any money for them. We want them back in school.
Yeah, that's not the point. The point is we need to find
That's
all
exactly
our
right.
kids. And maybe those kids, like I say, they could have moved or, you know, and some of them we did find. So out of those 2,600, we found some kids. But there were some, because they didn't know what to do. They weren't for sure where they're supposed to go. But then there are some kids we just didn't find.
Yeah.
And that's worrisome for us.
Right. Yes.
Cheryl, I was just going to have you read your motion one more time and see
Absolutely.
if there is a second.
Yes. I move that the Wichita Board of Education adopt the superintendent's recommendations, which is up on the screen. Additionally, I move that we allow Superintendent Thompson to continue monitoring health and wellness data carefully and make key decisions as may be warranted to balance learning and safety as we conclude the 2020-21 school year.
Is there a second?
Ron Rosales, District 6, I second.
It's been moved by Cheryl and seconded by Ron. Ben?
Yes, thank you for the recommendation. I appreciate that we have more time for this transition built in than the previous ones that we've dealt with this year. So that's a real positive. Do we know yet whether, so once we get the majority of our staff fully vaccinated, do we know yet whether they will have to quarantine because of exposure? Has that trickled down locally yet or not?
That particular quarantine does not apply to adults.
Okay. Okay. Are we going to change attendance at district events? Right now we have 2 per participant, and we've limited that. Are we looking at opening that up at all at
Are you
this point?
talking about for athletics?
Yeah.
For the spring sports, we will open that up, and I'm going to look back. Is it 4? Is it 4? Oh, it's okay. It's out. Most of the sports in the spring are outdoors.
Oh.
So we are all in. Just making sure I'm getting that right. Okay, I'll repeat. Swimming, we're allowing 2 because of the indoor. It's indoor, and it is very small in those places where they're swimming.
Okay, good. I know your presentation said we're still limiting visitors. Does that include like volunteers that don't have like direct contracts with us, like United Way or something? Will that also include like parent volunteers are still not allowed?
No visitors are allowed unless there is a direct contract that is directly working with individual students.
Okay. Let's see. I know this whole year we've we've heard from elementary specials teachers that they haven't been allowed to use their specialized rooms, gyms, music rooms, things like that. Are we planning any sort of a shift on that, or are we going to hold fast to that recommendation through the rest of the year?
We are still trying to get some clarity from KSDE because that is who gave us the directive to do that, and they're navigating a change. And so it was different for high schools than it was for elementary schools. So high schools are already allowing that, but elementary is not. But we are in conversation, and at any time that they make that adjustment for us, we will oblige.
Okay. I guess I'm on a fine arts kick tonight because, well, presentation, you know. So I did have one constituent reach out, and they didn't let me know the school they were at or particulars or anything, but they were concerned that athletic events were happening all over, but that their particular school was not having the level of fine arts events that they were used to, thinking things like concerts and plays and really like the performing arts, things like that. So I know there's been some fine arts performances that have happened various across the district, but it doesn't seem like it's consistent. So, like, can you explain, like, who would be determining whether those events happen in the fourth quarter? Is it like the building admin? Is it individual teachers, or who?
It's really the individual buildings, and I'm sure they're working with their teams of teachers on that. But we have kind of left that up to the schools at this point. That is probably why there's the differences in that, because it depends on the teacher and the school.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Welcome.
Ron?
Yes, Dr. Thompson. So on the MSR, My School Remote, what would you recommend for people who really appreciate the MSR and what it's done for their student? What would they be able to do next year to maybe, I guess, dovetail into out of MSR into next year? What recommendation would you have for them?
Yeah, we will have a virtual, which is really a remote opportunity. It's not My School Remote,
right?
But it will be a opportunity for kids to. If parents still have concerns about sending their children to school, or if they were very successful and they want to keep doing it.
Right.
There is an opportunity in Education Imagine Academy. Right now, there is you can enroll. Right now, it's already open for the EI Academy. So all parents need to do is go to EI Academy, USD259.org/EI Academy. And if you go there, you will be able to find, it gives you kind of a clear picture of what EI Academy is about. There are some videos and some things that you can watch so that you can see kind of how your children or what your child will be able to do during those times. I do know also at some point we will be having some parent meetings after parents have indicated on the interest form that they're interested in Education Imagine. People will contact you. You have a conference with you and your child to make sure that this is something that you're interested in doing. And then they will have opportunities to go ahead and finalize their enrollment for Education Imagine Academy. And it's, again, www.usd259.org/EI Academy.
Okay. And then just to be clear, the MSR is not allowable. Is that what you, on the presentation?
Currently, and I will.
For the fall.
Yeah, right today. And tomorrow,
Thank you.
And to the end of the school year,
Right, yeah. Thank
we
you.
will have the My School Remote option for families who choose to do that. But again, My School Remote, as I put on the screen here, the remote learning is currently not allowed by KSDE for next year.
Okay.
And that is in Navigating Next in that document there that it specifically says that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Julie?
Yeah, I just want to
Oh,
piggyback.
I'm sorry. I'm so- And I want to make this clear. This is not just for Wichita Public Schools that
Right,
remote, my school remote will not be in existence. This is any school in the state
Within
of
the state of
Kansas. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that,
Yeah,
Julie.
no, that's quite all right. I just want to piggyback on what Cheryl said about, I know there's just lots of concerns for secondary students that haven't done well with My School Remote. We know that some students have been very successful, and it's been a great model for them, and the teachers, we applaud the teachers for doing the great job that they've done with My School Remote. But it sounded like that particularly for those secondary kids that have been previously in My School Remote, that if they currently are not successful and are having D's and F's, that there's going to be a very strong attempt to get those kids back on site.
That is who we're targeting. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, very good. And it sounds like to me that with our summer school presentation and the thing that you've said about staff coming back and reaching out to specific kids and the additional tutoring and trying to get these kids that haven't been successful on site, that you're addressing a lot of the concerns that Ms. Heilman had about doing everything we can
Absolutely.
to get those that have fallen behind, to get those back on point, so that we can do what we can to make up for the difficulties that the pandemic has brought to us this year.
Yes, as some of the teachers tell me, and my staff, they call it, we're going to be relentless.
Thank
Very
you,
good. Thank you, Dr.
Yes,
Thompson.
Thank you, Julie. Ernestine?
I want to ask you to repeat, and I'm pretty sure I heard you correctly. It's not just students that haven't done well on My School Remote that can come back on campus right now after spring break. Any student who wants, or any parent who wants their student to come back onto campus, even if they signed up in January with the idea that it was going to be the whole semester, there is a change and they can come back now.
They can't come back tomorrow. Okay. But what they can do, Ms. Ernestine, is they can call their school to make arrangements at the school so that they can have conversation with the principals, and then they can make the dates of when students can begin to return.
The other thing I want to emphasize is that you talked about, was it 2,700 students that had disappeared?
That was at the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The
So,
point
yes.
I want to make is that, but there are 48,000
Yes, ma'am.
that have been enrolled and doing very well, or they are enrolled and showing up and they are being taught. And there has been this myth
I
that
know.
somehow or another that this has been a wasted year, and that teachers are teaching in an amazing way.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
one of the things that it's a sad thing that caused us to do this, but we in this year have made it so that we have, all of our students have access to a computer, have learned how to do this online. Probably they are better online than many of their parents. They are already in the next generation of the workplace in the future. And we've got 48,000 that have been doing fine. We don't want to lose the 2,700 or 3,000, whatever it is. But we've got all these others that we're taking care of, teaching very well, and they're doing great.
That is correct, and that is a myth. People, the people that are not doing well in My School Remote need to be heard as well.
Right.
And the people who are doing well need to be heard as well. So I think that it is a testament of the work not only of the board, but also of the entire staff of the Wichita Public Schools. I have said that many a day, and I will continue to say we have done a phenomenal job. Which is really cool about this is we had a technology plan we were working on. We have taken that technology plan that we were working on and that we're going to present, and we have surpassed that plan. And now Rob is creating another plan, because we would have that was a 5-year plan, and we did that within less than a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
so
I
it's,
really
and you've
think
closed
that-
the digital divide in this community, which we would have never been able to do in a 5-year. We had that down for a 5-year period of time. Not only did you get the devices, but you got internet access into the homes of children, and that's a huge feat. There are people that have worked a lifetime to try to get that to happen for children, and this board was successful in making that occur.
Well, that's the thing, is that we've had an awful lot of good success going on. That doesn't mean we're not going to do some work on where we see the holes or where the, but there's just been an amazing, when you think about the turnaround on the dime that had to happen this year, where we had no plans at all. No one knew that there was a COVID pandemic coming, and so I just wanted to emphasize and also go back and say that the children that are successful in My School Remote, if they choose to come back, if they're parents and they choose to come back on campus, they can do that now. It's not just only the unsuccessful ones that we're going to try to help.
That's for anyone who wants to make a choice. They need to contact their school and make arrangements. Yes,
We're
ma'am.
making a choice available again.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ernestine. I appreciate you making the point about choice. I think I'll have the superintendent, just to make sure we know what we're voting on, have the superintendent go through the recommendation one more time for our viewing audience and those in the audience, and then we will vote.
Perhaps you can read them out loud.
Yes, ma'am. I present the following recommendations for the fourth quarter. Students who chose on-site learning will return 5 days a week beginning Monday, March the 29th. My School Remote will continue for families who choose that learning model for the year. This recommendation will have no impact on students who are enrolled in elementary on-site learning, as they have always been in school 5 days a week, nor will this recommendation have impact on students enrolled in Education Imagine or those who are being served through a temporary service plan.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We do have a motion on the floor in a second. Dr. Mike, I think we are ready for a vote. And again, it was moved by Cheryl and seconded by Ron. Yes, thank you. And you can vote. Motion passes 6-0. Very exciting news. We're on to our next step. And Dr. Mike, we're ready for the next item.
Continuing under Education, Summer School Presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to share current plans for summer learning opportunities with the board. This presentation is for the board's information.
Dr. Andy Geeson, Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services. Good evening to the board. I'm going to introduce three presenters to you who are going to share some important information. What we have experienced, along with others across the nation, is education interruption. What we're engaging in tonight and have been recently is education recovery. And part of that education recovery includes some planning, summer program planning that we have for you. There is significant collaboration between academic specialists and operations specialists to develop the plans that you're going to hear about tonight, and then we will take questions after that. Presenting at the table is Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Christy O'Toole. And then behind me, we have Executive Director of Elementary, Michelle Kuda, and also Executive Director of Secondary, Amanda Kingry. I will turn it over to them.
Welcome, Christy.
Okay, good evening. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we cover tonight is that the programs that we're offering this summer, we have collaborated with a lot of different groups to make them, so we want them to be very successful, and they will be predominantly on-site this summer. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Kuda.
Okay, so at the elementary level, we're going to have summer safari camp. And the summer safari camp is going to run from June 7th to July 1st. It will be Monday through Thursday, and it will be from 8:30 to 11:30. So all the elementary sites will have the opportunity to participate, and 2 of the sites will include pre-K. So based on the Winter FastBridge screening data and the predictive interim assessment, students will be placed in cohort groups of up to 12 students. And then during that 3-hour instructional time, the students are going to participate in English language arts, mathematics instruction that's designed to address the learning loss. Here's a sample of what the daily schedule will look like. So beginning at 8 o'clock, students will have breakfast. After breakfast, they'll have decoding and word recognition for an hour. The next hour will be dedicated to language comprehension writing, and then the next hour will be mathematics learning. And we'll end our day with lunch. So we call it Summer Safari Camp because during the language arts comprehension writing time, there will be integrated safari camp theme where the students will have the opportunity to apply their academic learning through fun and engaging activities. So the question is, will there be a cost for this program? Students will receive the following free of charge. They'll receive breakfast, they'll receive instruction, they'll receive lunch, and they'll receive transportation. So then the next question is, who can attend and how are they going to enroll? Students at every elementary school is identified as those students that are identified as needing additional academic support this summer will receive an invitation from their base building. And then the space will be based on availability of staff using a 1:12 ratio. So the estimated number of students per site will be 120, and the deadline for enrollment will be April 30th. Once parents enroll, the site coordinators will communicate with the parents and the families who signed up and communicate details with them as needed. So the question, and Christy just addressed this, is will there be My School Remote option? The expectation is that all students that are part of Summer Safari Camp will be on site to participate. So thank you.
I'm going to draw the board's attention because this was a request from President Reeser to identify these programs, whether they're new, whether they're enhanced, or whether they're existing. And so I just want to draw your attention to the screen. As you see those things in parentheses, this was a request and an expectation from our board president.
Okay, we're going to go on to middle school. And as you can see, Exploration Camp, you're going to notice that a lot of what we're presenting for the middle school is very similar to the elementary. So I'll be saying a lot of the same things, but the camp time is exactly the same as elementary, June 7th to July 1st. It will only be Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 11:30. This is an enhanced program like Dr. Thompson was talking about. This is something that we have had in the past, a couple of years ago. We've changed it a little bit. When we get to the next slide, I'll kind of show you what some of those changes are from the past. But last year, we did the summer suitcase program because we did not have students on site. So this will look very different than summer school did last year. This is for all middle schools, so all middle schools will participate in summer school this year. Using the same data as elementary, it's going to be based on FastBridge data, predictive interim assessment data, and so forth. So, the daily schedule, again, very similar to the elementary. We're going to have breakfast for our students, mathematics, and then we go into a language comprehension. The difference, when we were talking about the enhanced from prior years, there's that third area that's called language comprehension writing. And so we're going to give an opportunity for our students to have some integrated themes into the summer school, because we know just math, just language arts may not bring them in. So we want to give them something that's a little more exciting, but also bringing the standards in. So it's going to be some project-based learning. We've got unsung heroes, which is something that Smoke is working with for our students to do. It's researching some of the heroes and bringing that into the writing and the language arts block. So we have some fun things to do, but we know that we have to stay focused on the standards. And so that's how that has enhanced, looked a little bit different. And again, just like elementary, we'll have, sorry, there is no cost to the program for any of the things, breakfast, and we will have transportation. Who can attend and how will they enroll? Again, similar to elementary. Every single middle school student that has been identified based on the data, we've already given that information to our administrators. We're working on getting site coordinators. Those site coordinators will communicate with the families. One of the things, although all middle schools are participating, currently we're only going to have 11 host sites for all 18 schools. So 7 of the schools will be paired up with another middle school at this time. Our goal is to hit 120 between the two schools. If it gets to the point that we have a lot of students and we have over 100 students for each of the schools, we're going to consider breaking those up so they can be their own host school. So that's something that we will consider as the program if it grows. And there will not be a My School option. Again, the expectation is that students will be on site. Extended learning opportunities, everything for the high school is existing. It's already been in place. There is nothing new that you're going to see with this. Basically, our goal for this is to make sure that our students, it's credit recovery for high school, and then providing them some new opportunities for programs, or I'm sorry, for classes that are original credit. And so the extended learning opportunity, those are for students that are between 50-59%. We will have teachers on site. They will be at their high school through June. If they need to continue some of those opportunities, at that point, it will go to West High is one of our focus schools, as well as Chester Lewis. The students, until they hit mastery, is when they will stay in the extended learning opportunity. So as soon as they hit mastery, they are finished, and they have up until graduation, the summer graduation, to complete that. The high school learning centers, those are for your students that are currently already working on those online classes. And again, as soon as that they can finish that completion, they will be done with that. And the original credit during that in the learning centers will be government financial literacy. Same thing that we just talked about before. This is really for credit recovery for a lot of our students. East High will offer their IB courses as they have in the past. PE, financial literacy, as well as government, it's not on there, will also be offered for original credit. We do anticipate a lot more students for PE this year than we have in the past. And a lot of that is because with East High and the IB program, those students usually take that class in the summertime, but we were unable to provide that last summer. So that we will have the students that couldn't take it last summer, plus the students who are taking it this summer. So we do definitely we'll see an increase. And that's it.
Okay, we also have 3 additional programs listed here. The first one is the Stealth program, and that is actually a program that is being enhanced. It's a program that we've had throughout the years, and with the opportunities that we have this summer, we will be adding sites to that. The Math Bridge Academy is something that we're very excited about. We're actually going to be working with some high school math teachers. We'll be identifying certain 8th grade students that we know need a little extra support in order to be able to be successful in algebra the next year. And so those students will be invited to work with some high school math teachers. The last group there is, those are existing programs that we've had over the years from Student Support Services and the ESOL programs. So our final thing tonight is just to share with you that currently teachers and paraprofessionals can apply by going to Apple Track and finding the programs that say summer programs, and we've listed them out individually so they can locate those. And if they have any questions on that, they can contact Ms. Kuda or Ms. Kingery. So we're going to open it up for questions.
Thank you. There are some questions. And did you, I'm sorry, did you say Apple Track is the first place to head toward getting the whole list of the presentation tonight of different programs?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
Apple Track is for our teachers to apply.
Okay, okay.
If they like to know a full scope of where all of the programming will be, it will be located.
The programming, that will be well, we're going to send this out to our teachers, but we're also working with the strategic communications to have that available on our website.
And I know we're going to talk about this from here till the end of the year on our social media pages. So
Yes.
I encourage everyone to really check in on that if this is something that you feel your student needs. Julie.
Yeah, I think this information is great. I'm so happy to see this presentation. We've always had really good opportunity for our high school students to get caught up in the summertime, but adding these additional programs and your enhanced program at middle school and the new program at elementary school, this is just fantastic. I have just one concern, and that is on the slides for both the K through 5 summer safari camp and for the 6 through 8 exploration camp, I see a little bullet that says spaces will be limited based on availability of staff using a 1-to-12 ratio. Do we have concern that we're not going to be able to support all of the students that want and or need to take this program?
You want me?
Dr. Thompson?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reeser. We don't know, to be honest. Our teachers are tired, straight up. I mean, they're tired and they're exhausted. However, we have made it very attractive for them to want to, Kim's smiling, she's nodding up there. We have made it very attractive for our teachers to want to do this because we know, again, as teachers do, they always rise to the occasion. They just do.
They do.
And we are anticipating that we would have enough teachers to do that. But again, as we've learned through this pandemic, you don't promise anything that you cannot cash the check for. So we are going to work ourselves tirelessly to ensure that there's enough people to be able to support what we need to have done. But the reason why we put the asterisk there is because we can't guarantee anything.
Sure. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Ron?
Yes, I was just wondering, so what's the process again for parents that are looking into this? Is it something they're going to be in contact with their their local school, or how's that going to work out for them?
Yeah, I would, if parents are wanting to find out some more information, we're going to have our information on the website, but then also our building administrators will be emailing and contacting parents. And then our identified site coordinators will also be in constant communication. So we do need like maybe a week to make sure that we start sending out that communication. But if parents are interested, they should contact their building principal.
Thank you.
Ben?
Yes, so how do we find the staff for summer? Is it just internal applicants that already work for the district and are taking a supplemental, or do we also have teachers in our region that don't necessarily work for us that may apply for some of the summer staff?
We currently have quite a few people that are actually applying as we speak internally. And so that's where we will begin. And our site coordinators, I'm very proud of them. They're amazing people, and they're already working on that. They're working on hiring people. And as the parents enroll their students, they'll continue to do that. And it could be that we have school psychologists that are helping us out. We have a lot of people that are wanting to step up and help this summer.
That's awesome.
So currently it's internal.
Okay. Can you explain because I am not a teacher. Can you explain what winter fast bridge and predictive interim assessments are? And did we do those assessments for every student this year?
Okay, so the winter fast bridge assessments, those are the screening tools that we use. And we did do that for the most part this year. The predictive assessments are things from the state that we have done this year. It was something that all of our students should have done, but we also have asked our principals to look at the list of the students, and if they have students that they know also need to be included, to reach out to them as well.
Okay. Dr. Thompson, what funding mechanisms are we using for these programs? Is it like the federal stimulus, or is it state funding, or what?
Okay, and yes, and yes. And I'm going to look right into the eyes of my Chief Financial Officer. So I know that we are using a combination of things. We're using some of our general fund dollars. We are also using some of our CARES dollars. And as we continue to move, depending upon how much is left in any of those funds, we also at some point may be able to use, but we're not using for this summer, but for the next summer, we'll be using our ESSER dollars. But right now, for this summer, we're using general funds and our CARES dollars.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have been given the thumbs up, so that was a correct answer.
Cheryl. Thank you. I am like the rest of us. We're really glad to see this because we need this year. This isn't a nice thing. This is a very much needed addition. I understand for the elementary and the middle school, everything is going to be free for them. What about the high school? Because we've had summer school and we have had charges for our summer schools at high school in the past. What is the funding going to be for those?
And I'm going to look up at Gil.
Yes, sir. We'll call our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Gil Alvarez, to the podium to answer our question.
While he's coming down, are there going to be meals at the secondary level? Meals? Will there be meals at the secondary level?
Yes, there will be meals, and I think they're breakfast and lunch.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct. Our high schools, summer school programs do go where you have first semester in the morning, and then you have another session for second semester in the afternoon. So there will be some food options for breakfast and lunch. And yes, this year, the cost for high school summer school program is going to be free to the students, whether they're in high school learning centers needing to use Edgenuity to make that up, or if they're just doing the normal traditional summer school. Now, one area that we haven't really discussed would be the original credit. Now, the original credit, we have to talk with our summer school team to really determine if that will be offered as for free or if that will continue to be a charge for original credit. But that will be coming soon. But for sure, we want to make sure that our opportunities for credit recovery are for free for our students that may have been struggling this year during the pandemic.
Okay, and my second question kind of ties to that, and that is about the additional programs, the STEALTH program, the Math Bridge Academy, and the Student Support Services and ESOL. These are new, but will there be charges for these?
I can speak to that. The STEALTH program is a grant-funded program, so there is no charge.
Okay.
The Math Bridge Academy that will not have a charge. The STEALTH program is enhanced. It's something we've done in the past. The Bridge will be new. And then the Student Support Services and ESOL programs, that's something that is not new. And so they will continue to run as they have. And I believe they do. I believe that it's free.
No, that is not true.
No?
Scope,
Okay.
they have a charge. Scope is for the gifted and talented, and we don't only just serve Wichita Public School students in that particular summer program. That summer program has students outside of the school district, and I was looking for your face over there. And the ESY program is free, and the YES program is a charge, and it has been in the past as well. And the migrant program is free.
Okay. We may want to make sure, as we are doing our website, we're real clear on what's free and what's not. Most of our stuff is going to be free this summer. And that's where we want as many as we can, particularly when we're working with kids who have fallen behind. We don't want to put I mean, families are struggling already. We don't want to put a charge on them to keep their kids out.
If there is a charge for a program, if there is a program that is for loss, it's automatically free.
Good.
The programs that are in existence that were not for a loss, but always as an enrichment or something to that effect, then those may have a charge, may or may not, and you're absolutely right, Ms. Logan, we should ensure that the cost, if there is one, is available there. But guarantee you that if it's for a loss, it's definitely going to be free.
Yeah, our challenge now is to get the right kids in this summer program. And thank goodness we've got a whole 9 weeks to get us there, because bringing the kids back that are struggling so that we can get them extra tutoring, and then adding this on top of it will help us get that step up for the fall when we start again. So thank you very much. This was an excellent presentation.
Dr. Thompson?
Thank you, President Reeser. I also want to note that we will have some support for social and emotional learning. We failed to maybe place this on this particular portion, but we will have support for identified students for some support there as well. And as soon as that information is available and all of the details are sketched out, we will be happy to share that information with you all as well, and to the families who would like to maybe partake in those services as well.
Thank you. Really appreciate the presentation, and I've just noticed that there's also, kind of goes to what Julie's question about capacity. I have noticed too that the community is again helping us and stepping up, and there are a lot of community offers out there. And so I would encourage parents who feel like their student may need some extra help and work this summer to check out our programs, check out and the YMCA has some wonderful programs this summer. So does some churches. There's some wonderful community efforts going on out there to help students, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate this presentation. Thank you very much for everybody's hard work.
Thank you.
Dr. Mike, next item.
Consent.
Ron, do you have any consent items to pull?
Yes, under purchasing, 1-4, Edgenuity online curriculum. I just wanted some clarification on that.
Sure. Oh, hang on. Let me see if anybody else has a item to pull first. Ernestine?
No, nothing to pull.
Ben?
I have nothing to pull.
Stan, Reeser District 4, no consent items to pull. Cheryl?
Cheryl Logan at large, no items to pull.
Julie?
This is Julie Hedrick, District 2. I'd like to pull C11.
I would move that we adopt the consent item except for the purchasing item that Ron identified and C11. Is there a second?
Ben Blankley, District 1, I second.
We'll set up the vote. Sorry. That portion of the consent agenda passes 6-0. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanting to find out some clarification, or maybe just something for parents that are not familiar with Edgenuity, and just kind of give us a little, maybe some information, or where could parents go and get information about Edgenuity and how that fits into our learning, especially, if MSR is done away with, and I think this is probably something that might be used in the summer as well.
I'm
So-
going to ask our Chief Information Officer to please address that question. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you.
Rob Dixon, Chief Information Officer. We use Edgenuity for a lot of different items. The content within there helps us for credit recovery, it helps us for MSR, currently for many of our secondary schools. It's self-paced for the most part. We use it inside of Education Imagine Academy. We also offer electives through Edgenuity and offer opportunities that we currently don't offer inside of the district in a virtual type function. And so there's a little bit in our EI Academy video that if you were to go to our EI Academy website at usd259.net/EI Academy, we have a video that's specific on there that kind of goes into what an experience in Edgenuity would be like. Talking about that self-pace, talking about where students that might excel in something in that area might find beneficial, so.
Okay, all right, so our website have some links and then they can go in there.
Yep,
and,
absolutely.
look at it from there.
And I'll tweet a direct link out from that as soon as I sit down at my chair with my device, so I'll tweet that out.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Ron, would you like to move to adopt that item then?
Yes, please, yes. I move that we adopt the C14 Edgenuity online curriculum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ron and seconded by Cheryl to approve bid number C14, the Annuity Online Curriculum. Passes 6-0. Julie?
Yes, the item that I pulled was the North High athletic uniforms, and it's good to see this on so quickly after we had our mascot discussion last meeting. And I would just like Superintendent, you or Mr. Davis, just to describe for us what we're getting on our new uniforms.
Well,
Dr. Thompson? Sorry, go ahead. Yes. Yes. No, I was calling on you.
Oh, you okay?
Sorry.
I'm being disrespectful, so I'll wait till my turn.
We'll get in rhythm. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we do have our we've kind of worked with the school, and they have a sample of what the uniform will look like. I don't know if it's available tonight or no. Anybody no? It's not available. Well. Okay. There is a uniform, I've seen it, so it is beautiful, and it is a representative of what you all vote, what you didn't vote on, what your board policy states, which is not being offensive to others. And it is once you approve it, we will order them. I am not going to tell you exactly what all they have ordered, because I see Mr. Davis is standing here, and he's looking at me like, let me answer this. So I'm going to let him answer it.
He could describe for us what they look like.
Do the best we can. So what that agenda item will cover is the athletic uniforms for the different teams, the various teams, as well as some co-curricular activities, bowling, speech debate. If a team had a blazer, excuse me, we did an evaluation of all of the uniforms they had to see where the quote-unquote term Redskin was on, and so to remove those things is what we're working towards. And so that covers all those things. We also looked at where people were at in terms of their normal rotation of uniforms, and so we're working with the band department to redo the band uniforms, and so that item covers all of their co-curricular athletic events, athletic programs, and co-curricular activities as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Good, yes.
Mr. Davis, is this the last of the items, or will there be more to come? And I know the answer, but I want people
So
to know.
by lumping all of those together, we got some discounts, and that's why you see the big number there. Also covers the mat for wrestling as well. So there will be no more items that we foresee coming to the board at this point in time.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the North High athletic uniforms. Julie Hedrick, District 2.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second? Seconded by Ernestine.
Stan?
Yes, Cheryl, go ahead.
I have a question in regards to no further items, because I know that there are some things in the building that aren't uniforms that do need to be adjusted too. Will those come back to us?
Yes, yes, they will. However, they will come, we've gotten permission from the committee, and that's what was brought to you, is that over time, things will happen. This portion of the uniforms is a yes. However, there could be some was he just all varsity or JV?
Those are varsity and JV, and so what's happening is that as we are going out putting things to quotes, nothing of the other items have come over the 20,000 threshold, and so that's where the other items may be, like the gym floor.
The gym floor, yeah, I was
Gym
going to
floor
say.
is right at about 17,000 as we look at it. I'm looking at, so it's under the 20,000 that we would necessarily bring to the board, but we could bring you updates if that's what you guys so desire.
No, I was just curious because I didn't want to send the wrong message to our public.
Yeah, because I know we're not
in-
done.
We want to make
Yeah,
sure
we're
we
not done.
remove all of the places where that name is. Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, please.
Under Policy, Second Review, New BOE Policy 1117, Title IX, Sexual Harassment and Complaint Procedure. The Wichita Public Schools prohibit sexual harassment. New BOE Policy 1117 is intended to ensure compliance with certain amendments of the regulations implementing Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 that took effect on August 14, 2020. For Title IX and proposed BOE Policy 1117 purposes, sexual harassment means conduct on the basis of sex that satisfies at least one of the following. 1, a school employee conditioning an educational benefit or service upon a person's participation in unwelcome sexual contact, quid pro quo harassment. 2, unwelcome conduct that a reasonable person would find so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it denies a person equal educational access. Or 3, sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, or stalking. An employee found to be responsible for sexual harassment will be subject to discipline, up to and including termination. A student found to be responsible for sexual harassment will be subject to discipline, up to and including suspension and expulsion. New BOE Policy 1117 supplements Policies 1115 and 1116. In an event of conflict between the requirements of new BOE Policy 1117 on the one hand and 1115 or 1116, new BOE Policy 1117 will control. On February 8, 2021, the board had its first review of 1117 and suggested no further work. It is recommended the board approve new BOE Policy 1117, Title IX, Sexual Harassment and Complaint Procedure.
Julie?
Yeah, since the last board meeting, I've looked at this policy very closely and did a little bit of research on the education amendments that were passed on August 14th. And as the attorneys told us last week, this does give some additional protections to the victims, but I found that it also gives some additional protections to the accused, and is appears that it's going to be a longer, more lengthy, and time-consuming process. My guess is, since it is an educational amendment that did take effect, that the district is following the guidelines. However, I will be voting against putting this also into policy. There's been some discussion that in the near future, this might be reversed, and I think just, it may not be either, but if it was, then the going back and forth is just further complication. So I will be voting no on this policy.
Any other speakers on this item? And we know Julie will not be making the motion to adopt it. This, just for background for anyone that may have forgotten when we discussed this the first time, unfortunately, we're dealing with some administrative policies, and the only reason I agree with Julie 100%, I think the worst thing we can do to a person who's facing this type of behavior is put them through a long process. But at the same time, I will be voting for the policy because of the simple fact that I do not want to set this school district up for a lawsuit that would cost the taxpayers. So we will continue to work with our federal legislators and our current administration to get this changed. But we're kind of putting our taxpayers at a great risk if we don't adopt this policy. That's the background for the public. Is there a motion? Cheryl,
I move that we accept this policy.
is there a second?
I second it.
And moved by Cheryl and seconded by Ernestine to take the recommended action. Motion carries 5-1 with Julie Hedrick voting no. Dr. Mike, next item.
Continuing under policy, first review, safety and environmental services policies. As part of an ongoing effort to consolidate BOE policies, administration proposes the following consolidation and renumbering of policies. 2300, crisis management and response, add relevant content from 7004, district safety committee, which is proposed for deletion, align crisis drill information with state law. Renumber 7008 to 2380, safety responsibilities. Renumber to be part of safety services policies section. Update policy to align with current practices. Add relevant content from 7008, 7010, 7011, 7020, and 7021, which are proposed for deletion. 6890, safety responsibilities, curriculum area staff. Update cross-referencing to renumber BOE policy 2380 above. 7004, district safety committee proposed for deletion. 7010, safety working situations, proposed for deletion. 7011, safety eye protective devices in work areas, proposed for deletion. 7020, safety hazardous waste, proposed for deletion. 7021, handling of hazardous chemicals, proposed for deletion. 7045, renumber as 5425, responsible use of animals, renumber and revise administrative responsibility from environmental services to student support services. This item provides for the board's first review of the above policies.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. There won't be any motion on this today since it's the first reading of these policies. But if you have any concerns, questions, or suggestions, this is the time to make it. And there are none at this time, but just like Julie, Ben, did you have one?
No.
Okay. No. And just like Julie did, if you do find something, we will deal with it on the second reading, obviously with a full vote. Thank you. Dr. Mike, next item.
Under operations, Board of Education BOE District 5 vacancy.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. The Board of Education is pleased that 9 qualified residents of BOE District 5 applied for the vacant seat. The board interviewed all applicants at a special BOE meeting at 5 p.m. March 3rd here in North High Lecture Hall. At the end of the March 3rd meeting, it was announced and the board agreed that the March 8th, the board would vote on the appointment. The following information is provided for the benefits of our viewers of tonight's meeting.
The appointment of a new board member to fulfill the unexpired term of BOE District 5 shall be by open ballot. The newly appointed board member will take a seat at the board table at the next scheduled meeting, which is April 19th, 2021. The newly appointed board member will fulfill the unexpired term for BOE District 5 ending January 10th, 2022. Tonight, each seated board member will receive a pad of ballots with that board member's name at the top of each ballot for identification purposes and a list of applicants in the sequence of the interviews on each ballot. During the first ballot, each board member may vote for any one of the 9 District 5 applicants listed in tonight's BOE agenda item. An applicant must receive 4 votes in order to be appointed. After a vote is completed, staff will collect, tabulate, and read the vote of each board member into the public record. If no applicant receives 4 votes on the first ballot, all applicants who received 1 or more votes will proceed to the next ballot. Applicants who receive no votes will be eliminated from subsequent ballots. To summarize the process, board members will vote by open ballots until one applicant receives 4 votes. If an applicant receives no votes on any ballot, the applicant will be eliminated from successive ballots. Chapter 11 of the Kansas Election Standards, which is available on the Kansas Secretary of State's website at www.sos.ks.gov, describes the incompatibility and conflicts of interest as those issues relate to board members. Here are 2 ways the Kansas Election Standards may apply to tonight's appointment process. An applicant who is currently an employee of the Wichita Public Schools and receives 4 or more votes tonight is required to resign their employment in the school district before being considered an official appointee. In other words, a school board member for USD 259 cannot be employed by USD 259. An applicant who owns or works for an entity that has contracts with USD 259 is not prohibited from serving on the Board of Education, KSA 754301A et sec. If appointed or elected to the board, the person would need to declare a conflict of interest for any agenda items that involve contracts with the entities, leave the board table, and abstain from voting on those agenda items. The person, as a member of the Board of Education, will also need to sign a statement of substantial interest with the Sedgwick County Election Office. The applicant who receives 4 or more votes tonight and satisfies other requirements described above is required to go to the Sedgwick County Election Office to take the oath of office and hand deliver an official copy of the oath of office to the clerk of the board's office. The district requests that the oath of office be delivered by Friday, March 12th at 1 p.m. After the district receives the oath of office, the newly appointed board members' contact information will be added to the BOE section of the district's website at www.usd259.org/BOE.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. I think I only need a clarification real quick. Have we had any applicants drop off the ballot?
We have not.
Okay. So you have a list in front of you, and Susan has been nice enough to provide the list of the 9 applicants. And we will not take a break during the balloting because we do not want to, we don't want to have any kind of appearance that, that anybody is going to lobby anybody for a particular vote. So once this balloting starts, we will conclude. Is the board members ready to vote the first time? Okay. Yes. Let's proceed with ballot number 1. And while they're tabulating the first ballot, I want to just say, again, we thank the applicants who applied. We think this speaks well for our community. It definitely speaks well for you. We would be proud to serve with any one of you. Unfortunately, we only get one vote a person. I've asked for 9 votes, but they denied me. So we wish you well, and we look forward to serving with you. Go ahead, Ernestine.
Well, I want to say, I just thank you for in this year, when who in the right mind would want to serve on, that 9 of you stepped forward. Thank you. Thank you.
And not only 9, but 9 well qualified. And
Thank you.
that was very impressive. We were very pleased with that.
Here are the results of the first ballot, ballot number 1. Voting for Mia R. Turner, Ben Blankley, Julie Hedrick, and Ernestine Crable, for a total of 3. Voting for Danielle M. Ramirez, Stan Reeser, for a total of 1. Voting for Kimberly D. Wilson, Cheryl Logan, for a total of 1. Voting for Seth A. Tiger, Ron Rosales, for a total of 1. We are now ready for ballot number 2.
And Dr. Mike, would you repeat the 4 names that we have remaining on the ballot?
Yes. Mia Turner, Danielle Ramirez, Kimberly Wilson, and Seth Tiger.
And we are ready for ballot number 2. And if we ever have to do this again, we'll try to get you I voted stickers. Cheryl?
Thank you. I just, while we're waiting for the vote to come in, I just wanted to echo, all of us do, that we so much appreciate all of you being willing to step up and serve and volunteer for this really important job. And we had a really good candidate field. So thank you so much to all of you. And we will be excited to have a new 7th member back on our board again. So.
The results for ballot number 2 are as follows. Mia R. Turner, Julie Hedrick, Ernestine Crable, Cheryl Logan, Stan Reeser, and Ron Rosales for 5 votes. Danielle Ramirez, Ben Blankley for 1 vote. Mia R. Turner has been elected to the Board of Education.
Congratulations, Ms. Turner. And again, we thank all the other applicants too. Mia, would you like to come down and say your first words as an elected official? After Mia provides her acceptance speech, we'll take a small break.
Hi, all. I'm not extremely shy. Thank you guys for the vote. I look forward to working with you all. I guess I'm excited. We'll see how this ride goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mia. Mia will be seated with us up here on our next meeting in April 19th. And I'm sure we are, Ernestine, go ahead.
I just want to say to the other candidates, we so much appreciate you, and we hope that you will stay engaged, and in future elections, consider being a candidate for election in the next one. So I'm not trying to run you into defeating Mia, but we really appreciate that you stepped forward. Thank you so much.
I think that's accurate, Ernestine. I was thinking the exact same thing. This is an election year, and we encourage everyone to check into various school board races. With that, we'll take a 10-minute break and then come back and finish the agenda. Thank you. We will reconvene the meeting. Dr. Mike.
Continuing under operations, first review 2021-22 Board of Education meeting calendar. As per BOE Policy 0100, Organization and Functions of the Board of Education will adopt a resolution stating its 2021-22 meeting dates, times, and locations at the first meeting in July 2021 at the North High Lecture Hall. The appendix includes a draft calendar and overview for the board and administration's review. In the draft calendar, the board's first regular meeting is scheduled for July 19th. Page 2 of the calendar provides an overview including dates, times, and locations of all proposed meetings, as well as other information. Key staff involved in board meetings and North High administration have reviewed the draft calendar. This item provides an opportunity for the board's first review of the 2021-22 BOE meeting calendar.
Are there any questions or concerns or recommendations, or is it the will of the board to adopt this calendar? Okay, I apologize. It's been already a long meeting. So, is there any necessary action on this one? Oh, it's the first review. Thank you. I apologize. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Or Ben?
Yeah, Ben Blankley, District 1.
Thank you for saving me.
That's okay. That's why I'm VP, you know. I do like how we had to have the 99% awards and the Good Apple Awards virtually this year, and it's nice and refreshing to see us planning for those awards to resume with the pandemic guidelines in place.
Thank you, Ben. Dr. Mike, next item.
Under Finance Budget Report, administration will update the board on the budget. This item provides an opportunity for the board's information and discussion.
Dr. Thompson, if you want to introduce the topic.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I have my colleagues here this evening to begin to have some conversations with you about some of the things that I know folks want to hear about, which is our CARES dollars, our ESSER dollars, and things of that nature. And as you know, this is the time for us to also begin to think about budgeting for the following school year. So I know a lot of you are really anticipating putting those numbers in your head again and processing with us on some of the things that are to come. So with that said, I am going to introduce to you my colleagues, Ms. Susan Willis and Mr. Terrell Davis.
Good evening, President Reeser, Superintendent Thompson, Vice President Blankley, members of the board. As Dr. Thompson said, I'm Susan Willis, the district's Chief Financial Officer. And tonight we kick off the Budget Development Report Series that we do every spring going into the summer as we work to prepare the fiscal year 22 budget. This year, probably more than any year that I've been in this role, it will be an extremely interesting budget cycle because of the significant amount of one-time federal dollars that will be flowing into our system to help us recover from COVID. And yet our budgetary estimates continue to prove to be very challenging, especially as it relates to enrollment and the weighted enrollment estimates that we will be looking to make for fiscal year 22. So this is just going to be just an unusually unique budget cycle, and I look forward to having many conversations with the board as we look to you for direction as we build the budget. But we'll start out tonight with kind of a state of current affairs. And so I will turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Terrell Davis, to give us a 2021 legislative session update.
Thank you, Susan, and to President Reeser and Vice President Blakely and Superintendent Thompson, board members. I'm just going to cover a couple of bills today. I know we have been here a little bit of time, so I'm not going to give you a full report. We're going to give a full report next month at the board meeting. First bill we want to cover is House Bill 2119, better known as the Frankenstein bill. This bill has both funding and policy that is included. It is a nightmare to public schools, if you will. We knew going into the session that there would be voucher bills that would be floated out, and we knew that they would try to tie voucher bills to funding that we most desperately need. And so just a couple of highlights from this bill. One, school funding for fiscal year 22 and 23 is included. There's a recommendation for a $500 teacher bonus. The student empowerment account, the savings account for vouchers, is established in this bill. Remote students converted to virtual funding if they are in remote for more than 6 days in a school year. And this will be for next year and subsequent years. Hybrid students counted as part-time students and reduced FTE. So if a kid was on hybrid, the time that they were not in face-to-face teaching, we would be decrease that with their FTE funding. Only in-person time would count towards the 1,116 hour requirement. No remote would count towards that under this bill. The tax credit program would be expanded. The 20 mil levy would be extended. And again, that's something that we want extended. And then high density weighting is extended for 1 more year. And so it's all lumped in together under House Bill 2119. Again, those are just some of the highlights of this bill. Next bill is Senate Bill 31. And so this bill would exclude Fort Leavenworth from the capital improvements state aid formula. That did not pass before turnaround. And so it would be up to the chair of the Education Committee to bring that one back. But at this point, we think it's probably not going to go forward this school year or this session. Next is Senate Bill 173. It has been blessed and passed. It extends the high density weighting for 2 more years and puts a 2-year sunset out there, but actually does codify and bring it into law, but has a 2-year sunset. One bill that we presented last year that was then picked up this year by the Kansas State Board K-Board, was the Senate Bill 32, the dual credit bill. It actually made it out of committee and passed the Senate, and it now sits in the House floor. And this bill allows for us to pay for dual credit for our early college students at Northwest. And so we have reached out to the Chairman Hubert of the House Ed Committee for a hearing on that bill, and hope to hear from him in the next few days that we could get that hearing there and testify for that bill. So those are some of the bills that directly affect us. Right now, I don't want to say anything bad about anyone. House Bill 2119 is kind of floating out there right now. There's a number of reasons why it's floating, and I won't fuel the fire to get it to move faster. We're going to let it float and let it just sit out there. And so that's kind of the big bill that has the potential to directly impact us. The only other bill I want to mention is Senate Bill 235, and it was mentioned earlier, and I want to give you the exact verbiage. And this is the bill from Ty Masterson. It says that the school districts must provide a full-time in-person option to all students. This bill is important because there's no flexibility in there. There's also, at this point in time, no consequences for not providing it. It now sits in the House K-12 committee, and so it'll be interesting to see what is added to that bill. But when I say there's no flexibility, a prime example is Marshall Middle School, back when Cheryl was the assistant superintendent, had an explosion. At that time, we were able to move students to the Longfellow building, but let's say that Wichita didn't have the Longfellow building. What this bill actually says is we would still have to provide a full-time in-person option to the students of Marshall, even though their building had just had an explosion the day before. And so that's where the potential harms comes in at. And again, there's all kinds of things that could come up for a school district that would need to close down, where not only just pandemic, there's some natural disasters as well, Greensburg and the tornado, different things like that. This bill says they would still have to provide an in-person option right away. Thank you.
Okay. As usual, the impact of activity in Topeka that has a direct impact on our budget, we have to keep our eyes on that activity closely so that we understand the financial impact, not only for the upcoming school year, but then for years to come. So thank you, Mr. Davis, for keeping us updated. So as I start most of my budget presentations, I start with an update of where we are currently for this fiscal year. And so I want to start tonight with looking at the final audited enrollment numbers for fiscal year 21. If the board will recall, we did present last fall the impact of the decline in enrollment of 2,621 students on the overall budget. We estimated at that time that the audited adjustments would run around $2.5 million, and we were pretty close. It was about $2.9 million of audit adjustments. So our final general fund LOB reduction will be about, it will be specifically $12.5 million and change, as indicated. There is no action that we need to take because we have already adjusted the budget accordingly based on what we estimated last fall. So that's, if there's a silver lining, is that we were really close on our budget estimates. So we'll move on from there. As far as the status of our fiscal year 21 budget usage, we are 2/3 of the way through the budget year. As of February 19th, and that date is when the old Oracle system went down, and we went live officially today, so we're very excited about that. We are 47% used as of February 19th, and we have 52.37% of the budget remaining. It needs to look this way, if you recall, because of the way we spend our budget dollars. We start out slow. You can see specifically this past year, the July and August spending, because students were not in the building yet, that we had very low spending. And then as students returned, in some areas, we started the increase in September, and you can see that it went back up closer to about our average as we get into the fall months. But we trend up In March, in fact, this chart probably is a little bit light on that March spike after the energy costs, so we'll be looking at those pretty carefully here in the next few weeks. But we really see that large spike in June, and this is because of the final teacher payroll. The June, July, and August teacher contract payments all have to post within this fiscal year. So we have to retain a certain amount of budget for that last fiscal month of the year so that we can cover those payrolls. So right now, the budget is following its normal cycle for the most part, except for what we might see in an energy costs here in March going into April when those billings come in. But barring any other curveballs, we do anticipate that we will have adequate budget authority to complete the fiscal year. However, that would not have been possible had we not had an infusion of federal stimulus money. So I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to cover all the forms of aid we've received so far and how much of it has been spent. So you will see CARES and ESSER 1 kind of used interchangeably. I'm going to just use CARES for simplicity's sake, but this is truly the first stimulus package related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we received direct funds from Sedgwick County, their share of CARES that was allocated for schools. That allocation was almost $2.2 million. That money has been 100% spent, and it was spent on secondary devices. And we have closed out that report, so we are final with Sedgwick County. The Kansas Department of Commerce CARES that was managed through the Spark Commission, we received $1.5 million from that group, and it has been 100% spent, and it was spent on student internet access. The direct allocation to USD 259 from the ESSER 1/CARES allocation, our share, it was $16.8 million. If you recall, some of the original 17.9 was focused for non-pub schools. Originally, we thought that would be a much larger share going to non-pub schools, but they didn't. It ended up being less for various reasons. So our share is about $16.8 million. We have spent almost $14.6 million on student devices, staff devices, student internet, tech supplies, personal protective equipment, cleaning supplies, the learning packets from the spring of 2020, COVID testing, additional Edgenuity licensing, and Lexia licenses. Those are kind of the big highlights within that spend. We have not actually gone and pulled all of that funding down yet, primarily because we want to kind of see how we go through the end of the fiscal year with summer school and some of the other funding we have available, including Title, including some grants, and then we'll kind of collect all the chess pieces on the board, and we'll pull down the funds finally to close out this grant. We anticipate the first ESSER CARES money to be fully spent by the end of the fiscal year. It was slow going, if you recall, because of the delay in getting the devices in. So when we did our first report to the Kansas Department of Education, it did look like we were not spending the CARES money very quickly, but most of that was targeted to devices. And if you recall, those did not come in until primarily November. So that was part of that delay, at least from our seat, was the delay in the devices. And since that point, those dollars have moved through the system very quickly. The little bit of money we have left, some of that's actually been spent. We've just not pulled it out of the different account lines within the system yet, but there were expenditures specifically at the elementary and secondary buildings that we allowed them to post in a COVID account, and we've just not gone to sweep those and report those yet. Same with the COVID leave for employees. They're the sub-costs related to those absences. We will pull into CARES tracking and potentially use CARES dollars to reimburse the district for those dollars if depending on all the planning that's going to go into those next packages. So again, there's just a lot of moving pieces to these federal funds right now. We are being extremely diligent to make sure that we are spending these dollars in allowable areas as required by the statutes that were passed. And certainly we understand there's a lot of scrutiny on these funds, so we are dotting every I, crossing every T to make sure that we are spending the funds responsibly and according to the law. The last little piece is a SPED CARES package of about just shy of $722,000. We have not spent any of those dollars yet. Again, we were waiting for summer school, and we were also waiting for final Medicaid reimbursements for this year to see how much Medicaid revenue we've lost related to our inability to provide certain services at certain times when we were shut down, and that there's a lag for those. So there's just some work that we have yet to do to kind of accumulate those losses and determine how much, if any, CARES we want to apply to that loss. So that's ESSER 1, and we are now getting into ESSER 2. Those allocations are coming from the legislation that was passed in December of 2020. KSE just announced allocations to districts in late February, so it's somewhat breaking news, if you will. The allocations were calculated based on Title I eligibility. Districts have until 2023 to spend these dollars. The allowable expenditures are essentially the same as the ESSER 1 CARES package. And what is slightly different with this particular package is that districts will need to submit an application to KSDE to a state committee, which our own Dr. Thompson serves on the committee. Hopefully she'll put in a good word for our application. And they will review those to make sure that we are in compliance with those federal guidelines on how these monies can be spent. They are specifically targeted to COVID recovery. So that's the lens that the committee will be looking through, is what plans do districts have to recover from the pandemic. Our allocation is not insignificant. It's $78,466,507. A big chunk of one-time money coming our way focused on COVID recovery. And to remind the board kind of the big general areas where these dollars can be spent. The money can be spent to provide principals and other school leaders with resources necessary to address the needs of individual schools. The dollars can be used to address the unique needs of low-income students, students with disabilities, English language learners, students experiencing homelessness, and foster care youth. It can also be spent for training and professional development, for staff on sanitization and minimizing the spread of infectious disease, for purchasing supplies to sanitize and clean district facilities, for mental health services and supports, purchasing educational technology, including hardware, software, and connectivity, summer learning and supplemental after-school programs, repairing school facilities, especially ventilation systems to improve air quality and reduce the spread of COVID, and other expenses necessary to maintain operations and continuity of service. So for us, ESSER 1 dollars were primarily spent in a reactive mode. We were in crisis. We knew we had a digital divide we had to overcome. We spent those dollars primarily, as you saw, on technology. With ESSER 2, we have a little bit more time to be thinking through how these dollars really can impact and benefit the district in its COVID recovery. So to that end, Dr. Thompson challenged us to go and get a little bit more input. We have a general framework of where we think these dollars would be best spent, and very broad targeting. But we want to make sure that our system is aligned with what our parents believe should be targeted, what our students believe should be targeted, and what our staff believes should be targeted within those categories of allowed expenditures. So we are going to survey staff, we're going to survey parents and students, as far as we're going to ask them, from this allowable list, what do you feel are the 3 most important priorities that the district should be addressing with these funds? And under those top 3 priorities, what specifically are you wanting to see as we attempt to recover from COVID-19? We will also have an ability for the community to provide input. I put the Survey Monkey for the community on my presentation, but it will also, again, be on all the social media platforms. We'll put it on the website, but that way our community at large can also comment on what the significant investment of federal dollars, one-time money for COVID response, where we can focus those dollars. And then we can make sure that what we're doing aligns through the system. So as we're putting all of these pieces together, keep in mind that we do have our timeline. So this is our first budget presentation of the budget season. We are heading for a notice of hearing date of July 26th and a budget adoption at August 9th so that we can get our budget to Sedgwick County by August 25th. What we can share today with you as far as our budgetary forecast is the base aid, as you know, is based on either the prior year enrollment numbers or 2 years ago, whichever is higher. So for fiscal year 21, so that's fall of 20 enrollment, we actually used fall of 2018 enrollment. So for fiscal year 22, we will be using fall of 19 enrollment, which is our next highest number. But that enrollment did have a 584 FTE drop. So because we have been in declining enrollment for several years now. So even though the base aid is going up 3%, so we're going from 4569 to 4706, because of that 584 FTE drop, we're only going to see a 1.7% increase in the general fund related to base enrollment. Special ed, we don't know those numbers yet because the state doesn't release how much reimbursement we get per teacher for several months, so that is kind of an unknown for us right now. The weighted funds and virtual funds, and then by definition the LOB, since it is a calculation of the total general fund, those are all going to be impacted by whatever we estimate for fall enrollment. And that's an interesting, that's going to be an interesting challenge for us. Here's the chart I showed you last fall showing the headcount decline related to the pandemic. So a 26-21 official headcount decline at 9-21-20. Here are just 4 scenarios, forecast models, if you will, where we get a good bounce back from the loss, where we get a bounce back but we don't get full or close to full. It's more like in the 40 to 50% range. We're forecasting a potential flat, so we stay basically where we're at. And then if last year becomes our new floor, and we would decline again. So we don't believe those last 2 are probably where we're going to be. We're going to be somewhere probably higher in that 40% range. But that range of possibilities alone is a $10 million gain to a $2 million loss. And as Dr. Thompson said earlier, we know some of those students will return. We're pretty confident we'll pick up pre-K students, kindergarten students, as parents become more and more comfortable and more people get vaccinated, and all the things that we've been so diligently working through all come hopefully together in a very positive way in the fall. But as she said also, we don't have no guarantees of what's going to happen. There's no historical trends to look at related to what's going to happen with enrollment following a pandemic. So we're just going to have to see what our activities, kind of what fruit develops from those trees that we're working very diligently now to find students and if they're coming back. And then we'll probably make some educated estimates as far as where we think we might be, and I will probably look to the board for some input on how comfortable you are with those estimates as we bring them to you. But it's a pretty good gap between the high end and the low end estimates at this point. So As we're moving forward into April, we obviously will be monitoring legislative activity for impact to our budget. We will bring you a first estimate of fixed cost increases that we know about. Hopefully, we will also then give you a better idea of the impact of energy price hikes on our budget, so hopefully we'll have some information for you then. We will provide you some early ESSER 2 survey results, even if we're just giving you those big categories, the first, second, and third priority. We may not have a lot of the detail underneath in the other question pulled together, but we should have those 3 broad categories identified. We will be watching very closely details of the COVID relief package that's working through the House right now. The first version in the House, the COVID relief package didn't have a lot of restrictions, but the Senate applied a lot of restrictions to what's coming to K-12. So if it passes as is in the House, we probably are looking at another package similar to ESSER 2 with some restrictions on how monies can be spent and some targets. So, but it's a big package. To put it into perspective, the first 2 packages, the first package was $13.5 billion. The second package was $54.3 billion. This package to K-12 is $125.8 billion. So we don't know what our share will be, but it could be pretty sizable, especially if it follows Title I again. So those are items we'll be looking at very closely here in the few months, and what does that mean? So again, it's just a very interesting position to be with, where we have significant one-time dollars and yet some real budget challenges as far as where we're going to end up as we go into the fall. A lot of unknowns still related to the budget. And then we probably will also bring you some challenges related to the at-risk funding that Terrell mentioned earlier too, especially with the changes in the sunset and some issues related to our free lunch calculation. So we'll bring you some numbers related to that. So to summarize kind of this first presentation tonight, the audited enrollment adjustments were in line with our forecasts, and the budget has been adjusted down $12.5 million. No additional action will have to be taken. There is currently sufficient budget authority to complete fiscal year 21, barring any curveballs coming our way. 86% of all ESSER 1 CARES funds have been spent, and there is a plan for the remainder to be used by the end of the fiscal year. The district's ESSER 2 allocation is almost $78.5 million. The restrictions on those funds do remain the same as ESSER 1, and the district will have to apply for those. The district will survey stakeholders seeking input on the priorities to spend within those restrictions. And that fiscal year 22 weighted revenues are particularly challenging to forecast, as that 2020-21 drop is unprecedented for us. So with that, unless Dr. Thompson has any closing comments to make, I stand for questions.
Susan, I have a question. Our budget is 75% paying salaries. The care packages, the 2 that have already passed and the 3rd that is getting close, those sizable, none of them allow us to use those monies to move into a general fund where we pay our salaries that makes up 75% of our budget. Is that correct?
There is no direct allowance for CARES to be spent on salaries. There are some, the language that maintain, where I think that, if you go back to the slide that says, let me go back to those reasons or allowances we can spend. The expenses to allow continuity of services so that we don't have to reduce perhaps the number of teachers in a classroom. There might be some allowable use of CARES there. For example, in a normal year, if we had lost 2,600 students and there was no pandemic, I would probably have had to come to you with, we're going to have to reduce expenditures.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
In this case, because there is a pandemic going on, we have the potential to use some CARES dollars to make sure that we wouldn't have to cut based on that loss. But we can't, I won't be able to apply to the state committee to say, we want to give a 5% raise because, and deservedly so, that our teachers did incredible work. That kind of allowance isn't a COVID response, but continuity of service would be a COVID response, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think a term that many people use is these care packages can make us cash rich but budget poor. Is that accurate?
We are going to have a healthy amount of cash to respond to COVID needs. Now, I will tell you, it will go very quickly, just like that first CARES package did. When you approved $24 million of devices, a big chunk of CARES went towards that $24 million and will support our lease with some of those dollars as well. So it is a lot of money, but as we institute programming, our programming is expensive. So those dollars get used up in big chunks relatively quickly.
And these dollars are where we have to expend it first and then we get reimbursed for it?
Yes. So most of our federal funds work that way. So it's a drawdown. We spend dollars, we collect them, all the spend for the month, we submit them to KSDE, they submit them to the feds send money back to KSDE, we get those back in a reimbursement format. So that's why if you look at the board reports, often our federal funds are negative because we've submitted the expenditures and we're waiting for dollars to return back to us.
My next question on fiscal year 22, when we say the base aid is based on prior year enrollment or the previous year, whatever one is higher, and obviously with the graph that showed our enrollment, we had to go through the second year.
Yes.
So if we stay at that lower enrollment number, that's why you have the 4 bars, correct?
So the 4 bars are, let me go back to this chart. Sorry, let me get back here to enrollment here.
Because we already know if we took the base aid and applied this year's enrollment numbers, we already know that number would be lower than the number that you have in the column for fiscal year 22, correct?
I'm going to try to restate
Yes.
the question a little bit. So there's two pieces of enrollment we look at. One is that base enrollment, which is a look back. So we look back at the higher of, so as we're planning for 22, you look at what happened in the fall of 20, or you look at what happened in the fall of 19. I hope we never have to use fall of 20 numbers in our budget, because that's a harsh number to come down that far that quickly. The 4 bars, the estimate that we were talking about for that is related to the weightings. So the weightings are going to be current year. So what we're looking at on that chart is what's going to happen in the fall of next year and the possible ranges depending on how many students are counted on 9/20 of this coming school year, 2021-22. So we already know, we're locked in, we have that number for the base aid. What we don't know, and that's why we gave you that range of possibilities, is where enrollment is actually going to come in on 9/20 of 21 for at-risk, for the ELL weightings, for all of the different pieces that are based on current year enrollment, which is different than the base.
Thank you, Susan. Ben?
Ben Blankley, District 1. So all of the federal dollars that we receive, and then some goes out to the non-pubs, all of those have to be accounted for in our max budget authority, right?
So the nice thing about the ESSER 2 package is that the state actually has to manage those dollars. So the $78 million that we have, we don't actually have to manage anything related to that piece for the non-pubs. We did for ESSER 1, and we did, federal funds are unbudgeted, so we don't have to have a max budget in the federal funds.
Okay.
So we don't, if those are just, you spend, what you get, you spend. So it works a little bit differently. But we don't have to manage that in ESSER 2. We might in ESSER 3, depending on what the final language looks like.
Okay, so like, the House and Senate might figure out a particular
A compromise
number,
bill,
compromise
mhm.
number, and we wouldn't have to go then reevaluate our annual budget if
No.
that those dollars changed.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions? Cheryl?
I have a question about the funds, the CARES third one, when we could get quite a bit of money. And obviously, we're doing summer school this summer and paying for it with these funds. And next fall, we'll have everybody back, but we're going to have some kids that are going to need extra help and support. And a lot of times, that extra help and support means people.
Yes.
And we have to be careful not to commit to a person for the next 20 years if that money's going to go away after 2 years. So can we spend it on people is my first question. And my second question is, how do we do that without having that as a commitment until they retire?
So the easy answer is yes, you can hire people with these dollars because again, you look at mental health, for example. How do we support mental health? We might need more counselors. We might need more social workers. So we can do that. But your question is extremely important. How do we sustain those levels long term? And the difficult answer is we probably don't long term. So we do have to balance the ongoing expenditures that we choose with our CARES dollars, what we can sustain go forward, whether it's through normal attrition, so as people retire in 2 or 3 years and those dollars are gone, can we move those people into open positions? And that's typically what we have done with other federal grants. This is just big. So again, I would not advise us to go hire 1,000 people with money that potentially will be over with in 2 years. But hiring some people to do some of this work, obviously our people can't do this all. I mean, we're going to have some extra help, whether it's in the form of additional tutors, additional mental health supports, but we'll just have to take a very balanced approach as far as what we believe we can sustain and handle through normal attrition, or we have to be very upfront with those that we hire that these are federal programs and we know we have 2 or 3 years.
Okay. My second question is in regards to using this, because I know we can use for ventilation and things like that for CARES. But that encompasses our HVAC and air and heating systems and so on. Are those things that money can be spent on?
Yes, absolutely. And we have looked at, in combination with, again, remember we did some of the energy savings contract work and how do these CARES dollars roll into that project work that we're doing? Can we look at our control systems, which drive so much of our air monitoring? So we've had a lot of good conversations, but we know that first and foremost, it's how do we address our student gaps? And so that's why we're taking some of this priority survey work back to our constituents, our staff, our students, parents, community, to make sure that we're listening to what they feel are those most important needs. But absolutely, air quality, and we heard it tonight, I think, from one of the speakers, that ventilation is important, and so it needs to be part of the conversation for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? This is our first report, and we expect to have reports from here on till the budget season's over.
Yes, sir.
And we apologize that we put you at the very end of a very lengthy meeting, but we appreciate this information, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Dr. Mike.
Under miscellaneous, superintendent's report.
Yes, I have just a few, please. Mr. Reeser, am I okay?
Yes,
to begin?
absolutely.
Okay.
I am so pleased to share several of the items with you tonight and speak to what an amazing district of choice the Wichita Public Schools represents in our community. First, I'm excited about the Verizon Innovative Learning Project and the 12 schools that will benefit from the multi-million-dollar investment we are making in our middle schools. So parents, this is some cool things happening. We are actually the only district in the state of Kansas to receive this award. And so there are going to be some really cool opportunities in our middle schools, so parents, be looking out. Second, you know we pride ourselves on the choices we offer to students. So remember, there are two things that are taking place right now regarding our exceptional enrollment opportunities. We're currently taking application for our pre-K, which is free pre-kindergarten programs for kids who are 4 years old on or before August the 31st, and we're getting ready to mail our magnet acceptance letters at the end of the week. Third, the board member Ron Rosales recently asked whether we made Spanish of education agendas and minutes available to our Spanish-speaking stakeholders in our community, and I am pleased to let you know that we indeed do that. Visitors to go to our website can opt to have the entire platform translated automatically into Spanish and a host of other languages. If a member of our Spanish-speaking community wanted to view our business documents, they could go to usd259.org website, go to the website, I should say it again, www.usd259.org, and you can choose a preferred language at the very top corner and then interact with all the active content, and that has automatically been translated into preferred language. All of our Board of Education agendas and the minutes are available on usd259.org BOE, and once on that site, a patron can translate a wide variety of pages, including the Board of Education agendas. Finally, I want to end up with a couple of shout-outs. First, I'd like to thank Governor Laura Kelly for visiting our district last week. The staff and students at Northeast Magnet were exceptionally wonderful, as always. And we were pleased to get the governor's visit rescheduled, as it was delayed earlier because of COVID-19 crisis. Second, I want to give a huge shout-out to the state championship athletes. Last week, the boys bowling team competed for the state recognition, and I am thrilled to say that Northwest High School boys bowling team earned the covered spot of state champions. And Heights High School boys team is our new state runner-up. I hope that we will be able to recognize them at a board meeting soon, but I want to make sure you could share in the good news with us. The last thing I'm going to just say is I want to give a shout out to Tracy Collier. If she's not listening, please give her a shout out. She also serves on the state task force to review every single application, public and private, for the ESSER 2 funds. And parents and stakeholders, please look forward to that survey for ESSER $2. Again, I just felt like it was very important, along with the board, who always wants to have the opportunity to hear input from our parents, our students, anybody. It's going to be on the website, so anybody could give input on their desires within the 15 parameters. We can't go by, everything we want, but we have to stay within that those 15 priorities. And when you go on that survey, you'll see those 15 priorities so that you'll remember what they are. And then you can give us input on what you think and how you think we should be spending those dollars. We will make a compilation of those results, and then we will definitely share those out to our community as well as to our Board of Education members as we continue to proceed on how we as a district will respond to the loss that our children and our staff has had during COVID-19. Thank you, Mr. Reeser, for the opportunity.
Dr. Mike, next item.
Board of Education report request.
Julie?
I have nothing.
Cheryl?
I have nothing this evening.
Stan Reeser, District 4, nothing.
Ben Blankley, District 1. It's been a long meeting, but I've got just two things. One, I want to echo Dr. Thompson's mention of our district pre-K programs. My little guy went through the district's pre-K programs up until the pandemic hit, and then the staff at Little, very gracious, continued in the remote setting until the end of that school year. And I can say on a personal level, his experience in the district pre-K was very high quality and rigorous, and the positive lessons that he learned there continue to echo into his kindergarten year. And I think he learned a lot of caring and compassion for a variety of kids of differing backgrounds and educational levels. And so for anyone else out there, you know, middle class engineer, parent, whatever, in my situation, who's thinking about, you know, sending their kid to a pre-K program, definitely look into our pre-K program, because it's up there. It's top notch. The other thing is that I wanted to give a shout out to the recently developed esports arena at the ISC that we've now developed. And then I also saw on Twitter, Mr. Rob had shared that some of our secondary principals were run through the gauntlet recently, trying esports. I think some of them figured out they may be a little better at Rocket League than they originally thought. So I'm looking forward to being able to experience that and check out that. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Ben. Ron?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the everybody involved with the vaccine and rolling that out, and the process is working well. And again, to Northeast, Mr. Kreisman and his president and vice president of student body there did an awesome job just interacting with Governor Kelly and really representing our district very well. And again, thanks for all the team, the interpretation team, for making the translations available in different languages for our district and all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Dr. Mike, next item.
New business.
Seeing none. Next item.
Executive session.
Ben?
Ben Blankley, District 1. I move the board recess into an executive session to discuss preparation for upcoming negotiations between the Board of Education and United Teachers of Wichita pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting will resume in this room at 9:50.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Cheryl to move into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Was that okay, Dr. Mike, that I did it that way?
Yes.
Okay. The board is back from executive session. No action necessary. Dr. Mike, next item.
Our next item is adjournment.
Ben
Move we
Blankley,
adjourn.
District 1. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Julie. All those in favor say,
Just raise your hand.
yes. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. This meeting is adjourned.